Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping it strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. The young boy Joshua Smith here, joined by Rich Latta. On today's show, we'll be discussing nights 11 through 14 of Best of the Super Juniors 26, previewing Dominion and answering your questions. And of course, we'll cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns at socialsuplex.com. Go to socialsuplex.com/subscribe to sign up to get all of our podcasts and columns delivered directly to your email inbox. This episode of Keeping It Strong Style is brought to you by Powerslam.tv. Powerslam TV is an independent wrestling streaming service with over 5,000 hours of wrestling from companies across the world. Use your promo code SocialSuplex to get a free month of Powerslam.tv. Make sure you check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get our official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style is Youngboy.
They let this man loose. All right. And see, Jeremy's on his rich creation and has disappeared on vacation, and this man has left you the reins.
He's gone off to an exotic locale.
Yes. Yes.
You notice the land that he's gone to, Alaska. It's mighty white up there.
Yes. I have a feeling that they'll easily be able to keep track of Jeremy up there. So, well, yeah, man, it's been a long time since I done a show with you, man.
Obviously, you guys can hear the voice that's with me, Rich Latta. No stranger to this show. The thing is a few weeks ago, someone called me the other guy on this, and I got real offended.
Man.
But then Jeremy left, and I realized...
You're now the guy.
No, I realized I really am the other guy. Like legit, if you weren't here, there would be no episode. Like, I've been stressing.
Bro.
I've been like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
So check this out. Like, this man Josh has been calling me. This man has been blowing up my messenger this morning with the format of the show and everything. Just a nervous wreck. Like, when I came through the door, I'm like, come on, man, let's just have some fun, man.
Here's the thing. Jeremy does this show every week. This is the first time he's ever missed an episode. I'm pretty consistent, but there have been, I think about three episodes in the past year and a half that I haven't been on the show with him. So he's kind of handled it without me. This is the first time where, like, I'm left unchecked. And at first, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But then, like, I realized what that
how do I do the graphics?
Yeah.
How do I record this shit?
I was like, how do we get the those people that talk before the show starts and the music? How do we get that going? How do we get the pictures up?
Oh man!
When I show up, Jeremy has a whole format laid out. I was like, wait, where's that come from? How do we get this going?
Yeah.
I'm just the talent, bro. I just show up. Like, I went from being like just one of the boys to suddenly I'm booking and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
I'm basically Kevin Nash circa 1999 right now.
Yeah, man. You got to call your old pal Kevin Sullivan, me, someone who's been booking for a long time and all that. But
you are like Kevin Sullivan. Like, you were on the booking committee, then you got fired, but now you're back.
Yeah, man.
Jeremy is gone, and we do consider him the Tony Khan of Social Suplex, and sitting with me is what I would consider one of the co-executive VPs of Social Suplex.
Yeah, man.
So it's going to be good. But, man, it has been a while since you've been on the show.
Yeah, man. I would probably say, maybe the awards show.
Yeah, like 6 months.
Yeah, it's been, kind of rough. And before we get to the show, pretty much this last week was our last show covering Raw and SmackDown. And then that took up about 40 weeks of time during that project we were doing, and we literally got to cover the descent and downfall of WWE television, which directly led to a rival company being formed in North America. I do consider that a special time. But now that I'm only doing one show a week, it's wow, I can do some podcast spots. So this is my third show in 3 days. I did my show yesterday, and I did a guest spot Saturday, and I'm ready to rock and roll here, man.
I actually did a guest spot on Friday along with Floyd Johnson on one of the shows here on Social Suplex, All Things Elite, where we did a review of the Double or Nothing event, which... Man, that review went a long time, but it was fun. I had a really, really good time. Floyd's freaking awesome. If you guys haven't checked that out, I don't know if you're Double or Nothing'd out or AEW'd out yet, but trust me, you want to check that out. It was really, really good time. But yeah, man, I was just thinking, probably 5 years from now, when you put stuff behind your paywall, you can be oh, and then on Tuesdays, you can check out our retro reviews from the time period when we were doing Raw and SmackDown reviews.
I do have all the episodes.
Just 2 years before WWE went bankrupt.
So I'm gonna save all those. Make sure I got a private folder. And
if you want a little taste of our retro reviews, we were calling this years ago.
Yes, and that RSS link, I don't know how long it's gonna be active, so that might be a good idea to tuck away for about 2 or 3 years from now when AEW is the number one promotion in the United States. And
in the United States, sir.
Yeah.
In the United States is the optimum.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We're coming. We're coming for the US.
Yeah, man.
But, yeah, we've got an awesome show, ahead of us. We're going to talk about nights 11 through 14 of the Best of the Super Juniors. We're also going to be previewing Best of the Super Juniors Finals, Dominion. We're also going to be taking your questions, going over all the latest news, all the controversies. There's been some tragedies. We've got a jam-packed show, literally. So
it's on.
Yeah, we should definitely get into it.
Let's run it.
So we're going to start off the show by talking about nights 11 through 14, Best of the Super Juniors. Now, Rich, you haven't watched all this, right?
I haven't seen all of this, no.
Okay. So next week, when Jeremy's back from his exotic locale, when we can bother him to actually show up and do one of these shows, then we're actually planning on doing an entire, along with our Dominion preview, but we do this every year. We're going to do an entire review of the entire Best of the Super Juniors, grades, recommendations, our top matches, similar to what we do with all the big tournaments like the G1 and the Best of Super Juniors. So I don't think we're going to go super in-depth with all of these nights, but we are going to give you guys a rundown where we're at. I have seen most of this, but I got to tell you, I'm not caught up, so I don't even want to do an in-depth night-by-night review myself either. But starting with night 11... on night 11, which was an A-block night, Marty Scurll defeated Taka Michinoku by medical forfeit. We covered last week how Taka Michinoku was taken out of the tournament due to injury. So Marty Scurll moved on into the next round, picked up 2 points. Easy night of work for him. After that,
I mean, Marty been taking nights off all tournament from what I've been hearing. So this ain't really too different, I see.
Yeah, that's true. In the next match of the night, Sho defeated Teton at 11 minutes and 15 seconds via pinfall. That was rated around 3 stars. Taiji Ishimori defeated Tiger Mask at 4 minutes and 38 seconds via submission. Round 2.5, Shingo defeated Jonathan Gresham in what I thought was a really good match. 11 minutes, 15 seconds via pinfall. I went about 3.5 on that one.
I did catch some of the action from that one. I was very pleased that Shingo received the check that I sent to his residence.
Can you explain to people what your issue with Jonathan Gresham is?
No.
Okay. But yeah, there were times where Shingo just freaking laid out Jonathan Gresham in this match. It was vicious. And then in the main event, we had Dragon Lee defeating Kanemaru at 14 minutes, 5 seconds via pinfall, picking up another 2 points. Shingo is undefeated at this point in the tournament. Ishimori is just trailing him along with Dragon Lee. And that pretty much covers night 11. Night 12, which was a B block night. In the first match of the night, Ren Narita was defeated at 12 minutes and 25 seconds via submission against Yo.
We're going to start showing my boy Yo some love out here.
Yeah.
I'm going to just put it over the airwaves now. We is not about to just come out here and just mark out for show and all this stuff because Yo is right there with him.
I mean, Yo is right there with him, but, you know, he's Yonetti Michael. Or, what's Marty Yonetti.
Wow.
Have you seen the tassels?
I have.
What do you feel about those?
I like them.
I hate them.
Anytime I see tassels, I like them. From the Ultimate Warrior to Tyler Breeze. I love tassels.
You would love the Ultimate Warrior.
I guess.
No joke. Just before the show started, we had to restart a bunch of times because I was like, I was not able to like get through the intro. I'm not used to doing it. It's what Jeremy does. It's his job.
Man. I was like, yeah, man, you might want to like get your blood flowing or something. Like run back and forth like Warrior.
Start running around here like the Warrior.
Yeah.
The spirit of the Warrior floating through the veins.
Unbelievable.
Anyways, but Yo picks up the win against Ren Narita, who Ren Narita's had just an incredible tournament and still defeated 0-8 at this point in the tournament. Bandito defeats Robbie Eagles at 9 minutes 30 seconds, which was a big win because Robbie Eagles was in the running to win this tournament, so that was a huge loss against the surging Bandito. Bushi defeated Rocky Romero at 10 minutes 25 seconds via pinfall. This was interesting because Rocky Romero, who, as some of you may know, was the former Black Tiger. I think he was Black Tiger, I want to say 4.
Mm-hmm. Like in the early 2000s?
Yeah. He actually brought the mask back out, but it was a custom mask, and half of it was Black Tiger, and half of it was El Desperado's mask. Yeah, so he brought that out, and then before the match started, he ripped it off and did the Bushi spit mist. And you know how they're always talking extensively about how nobody in the locker room likes Bushi, and Rocky Romero's always burying him on commentary, so a little bit of a backstory with this one. It was a fine little match, but Bushi picks up the win here. And then in the semi-main event, Will Ospreay defeats Doki at 16 minutes and 30 seconds. I went 3.5 on this. I've seen some people that were a little bit higher, though. It may have been Doki's best match of the tournament, though.
Yeah, I heard Do UKI has just... He's gone from like a waste of space to like serviceable towards the end, and Will Ospreay is like just added that to his resume. Like,
yeah.
look what I got out of Duke I, you know,
like T.I.
Doyuki, or you know, I'm just gonna say it different every single time.
And then in the main event, so this was a big one. So going into this night, we had a four-way tie between Robbie Eagles, Will Ospreay, Ryosuke Taguchi, and El Phantasmo. They were all sitting, I believe, at either 8 points or 10 points. But, you know, Will Ospreay at this point in the tournament has taken losses to Robbie Eagles. He's also taken losses to El Phantasmo. Robbie Eagles losing to Bandito earlier in the night to Bandito pretty much eliminated. He still had a possibility of winning, but once Will Ospreay jumped ahead of him in the points, that pretty much knocked him out of contention entirely. So it really came down to what would happen between Taguchi and El Phantasmo in the finals of this night. El Phantasmo, like I said, had a previous pinfall victory over Will Ospreay. Those were the only two people that defeated Will Ospreay in this tournament. Mm-hmm. And so if he were to defeat Taguchi, then that means at that point it pretty much would have locked things down for El Phantasmo. It kind of got a little confusing with the way it would have worked out, but it would have tied him up with Will Ospreay, and then it would have given him a much better shot of winning the tournament, because basically if he won his next match after that and so did Will Ospreay, he'd get the tiebreaker. Obviously, we know Taguchi was going into the final night against Will Ospreay and was tied with him, so he kind of needed the win here. So it was do or die for these two guys. In what was probably the match of the night, and a really good match, Ryosuke Taguchi defeated El Phantasmo 20 minutes and 25 seconds. via submission, beat him with the ankle lock. So that solidified his spot in this tournament with 12 points going into the finals on the final night against Will Ospreay.
So what I'm gathering is like Phantasmo kind of got handled how Kenny got handled in the G1, where he just ran off a bunch of wins to start, beating favorites and everything.
Real similarly.
And then like at the end, it just like he caught a blown tire essentially.
That was, not to pat myself on the back, but that was kind of what my prediction was going to be, just looking at the way the blocks were laid out. And as the tournament continued on, you kind of saw that he was winning everything, and he beat Will Ospreay. And you had to figure that Will Ospreay is the odds-on favorite. So you would figure that they would do a similar booking scenario to what you mentioned with Kenny, where Phantasmo had to probably pick up a couple losses towards the end. And it was in order for Will Ospreay to get into the, to win.
He needed some help.
Yeah. So it was like, when was Phantasmo going to take the second loss that he needed to take? Was it going to be on the final night against Doki? Not likely. So it ended up being against Taguchi in the main event. So that kind of solidified the B block finals. Wound up being Taguchi versus Will Ospreay with a tie. So that eliminated on that night both Robbie Eagles as well as El Phantasmo. Going into night 13, Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeated Taka Michinoku via medical forfeit. He picks up another 2 points. The first true match of the tournament for that night, Teton defeated Tiger Mask at 8 minutes via pinfall, 2.5 stars. Sho defeated Jonathan Gresham at 10 minutes and 30 seconds via pinfall, 3.5 stars. I know you like that outcome. That actually was a match that I really enjoyed. Sho and Jonathan Gresham. It was a match I was looking forward to, all throughout the tournament. It didn't disappoint whatsoever. And then Dragon Lee defeated Marty Scurll, 16 minutes and 20 seconds via pinfall. That's probably Marty Scurll's best match of the tournament.
So the unique stat that I picked up on the way, just going through it, is Dragon Lee, like with that win, like he got the 14 points.
Yeah.
And he has become like the most successful luchador to ever compete in the Best Super Juniors tournament.
Oh, Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Who before him was more successful?
So according to, I believe it was Case Lowe from Voice of Wrestling. Shout out to Case Lowe. He beat out Black Tiger's runs in 1993 and 1994, which
that's Eddie.
Yeah, I would assume it would be Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, that's who that is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And really, really good match. Actually, you know what? I might have liked the Marty Scurll Shingo match a little bit better than this, but still really, really good match. And then in the finals, in what was the A block finals, so we had Shingo going into this match undefeated, taking on Taiji Ishimori. So Shingo goes into this match with 16 points, and Taiji Ishimori comes into this match with only one loss to Yoshinobu Kanemaru at 14 points. So it sets up a scenario where we're in the A block finals. This is for the finals. Whoever wins this is going to, headline at Sumo Hall. And Ishimori is basically in a do or die situation. He can't get a draw. He can't go to the time limit.
Win and you're in.
He has to win. If he wins, he ties the points with Shingo, gets the tiebreaker, and he gets the block. If Shingo wins, then he basically makes history as being the third man ever to win an entire block undefeated. But not only that, basically going into the tournament being unpinned, unsubmitted, and
so the only other two guys that did that were Liger and Devitt. And both of those guys ended up in the G1 that same year.
That's true.
We were having a conversation off air. The speculation is that Ospreay, everyone's assuming Will Ospreay's in it, right? And I would answer that like, well, why not Shingo too?
It's starting to look like a really reasonable possibility.
Right.
I also believe Loki actually ended up going to a block final undefeated, but ended up losing to Taguchi in 12. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's correct. But this match, I watched this match earlier today just to kind of refresh, and this match was just as awesome as you could have ever expected it to be. Shingo and Ishimori, they freaking went to war. I really liked the story of this match, basically where Shingo being the more powerful and dynamic of the two, but definitely showing ring wear from just, the entire tournament. And then Ishimori, who has we've had speculations all throughout the show. If you've been listening week after week, we've been speculating about his health, the condition he's in. And he definitely came into this match looking banged up, but still was the faster of the two competitors. And there was a story here where both men were attacking each other's necks. Shingo was attacking Ishimori's neck due to the rumors that he'd bothered his neck earlier in the tournament. And then Ishimori attacking the neck of Shingo to kind of prep him for the yes lock, which is one of Rich's favorite finishing maneuvers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But this match went 21 minutes, and man, it did not disappoint from the get-go. Just incredible chain wrestling action.
You think he was Shingo's like biggest challenge
through this tournament?
Yeah.
If it wasn't Sho, then it was probably Ishimori. Him wrestling Dragon Lee was kind of a big challenge as well, I would say, with Dragon Lee being the champion. But Ishimori kind of being like the main established guy from New Japan on that side of the tournament, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. But there were so many moments in this match that really stood out to me. At one point, once Shingo hit the Noshigami and started to go for the finish, he kind of smelled blood, and Ishimori was definitely in trouble. He started killing Ishimori with pumping bombers, and then at a certain point he threw Ishimori into the ring ropes and rebounded him, and he was going to go for a Death Valley driver, and it was at this point that Ishimori hit his comeback. He actually ended up hitting a crucifix bomb off of that, and then Shingo tried to basically rebound from that and throw him up for another Death Valley driver, but it was at this point that Ishimori hit him with what I have to say is probably one of the most beautiful Hurricane Ranas I've ever seen. And I popped. I thought he actually beat him. He got the two. Shingo kicked out. After that, Ishimori hit him with one of the most dynamic Canadian destroyers I've ever seen in my entire life. They started trading clotheslines, and he kept trying to hit the pumping bomber on Shingo, on Ishimori, but Ishimori ended up ducking it and actually hit Shingo with his own pumping bomber, and it was like, oh my god. He ended up putting him in the yes lock, and at this point Shingo was trying to get to the ropes. He rolled him back into the ring a la Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 2004 or WrestleMania 20, and it looked like Shingo was gonna tap. Shingo ended up fighting out of the label lock, and Shingo gets to the ropes. He fights off the Bloody Cross. Ishimori connects with knee strikes. Then they trade center of the ring. And then at this point, Ishimori goes down. Ishimori fires up, hits knee strikes, and hits a huge desperation lariat. Ishimori hits the John Woo, the double knees, and then a lung blower for 2. And then at this point, he goes for the Bloody Cross, and suddenly Shingo, out of nowhere, just turns the Bloody Cross into the Last of the Dragon, connects for the win. It literally looked like Ishimori was in the middle of a finishing
emptying
sequence.
the gun.
Yeah, he's emptying everything, and Shingo says, "Nah, hold this Last of the Dragon, go to hell."
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Going to the finals. Holla.
Yeah, and it was just such a performance. A really, really awesome performance from both guys. It looked like Ishimori was this incredible junior, but he was outmatched, outsized, outstrength, outgunned the entire time. And he was just throwing everything he could, but it was like a heavyweight against, a welterweight.
Man, Shingo's a bully.
We're going to talk about a bully later in the show for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I really like the layout of this match. Just he came across as the big star. And even though he appeared vulnerable throughout the match, he was able to just kind of pop the win out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So really, really, really interesting stuff here. But Shingo ends up picking up another win, goes undefeated through the A block, defeats Taiji Ishimori. The unfortunate news coming out of this match, Ishimori, New Japan did announce that Ishimori suffered a shoulder injury. He did have to miss the June 3rd show, and there is no telling how serious this shoulder injury is. As of this recording, they haven't announced whether he will be on the rest of the tour or Dominion or any of the Kazuna Road shows. So it remains to be seen where we're at with Ishimori, but he was injured.
Yeah, best wishes to Ishimori. Get healthy soon, and can't wait for him to come back.
Yeah. So that's going to take us to night 14, which happened earlier today. Now, I did not watch this entire show, but we're at the point we might as well talk about it, so we're here. In the opening match of the night, Bushi took on Ren Narita. Throughout this tour, throughout this tournament, we've been wondering the question, can a young lion beat one of his elders? And it's happened in the past. Would Ren Narita, continue that tradition of upsetting one of his elders? It would not be so on this night, as at 9 minutes and 10 seconds, Bushi picks up the win via pinfall.
Gato, you're a coward.
So Narita goes 0-9 in the tournament, although he was incredible during this tournament.
I've heard nothing but great things about Ren Narita throughout this tournament. And he was essentially like a replacement for Flip Gordon, and it worked out about as good as possible.
Yeah.
Considering that he has to have essentially the opening match every night, but he's still a tough challenger for everyone, and people aren't just running over the guy.
Yeah, Jeremy did a great job mentioning this last week, and he pointed this out to me, how Narita kept hitting his overhead belly to belly, or bridging belly to belly suplex. The problem was he wasn't getting the bridge. So every night it was like, if he could just get the bridge, he'd pick up the windfall. And he kept not being able to kind of capitalize on it. So kind of a nice little wrinkle there, nice little long form storytelling in New Japan. But Narita had a great accounting of himself all throughout this tournament. The next match of the night, Bandito defeated Rocky Romero at 11 minutes 30 seconds. 3.5-star match. Rocky Romero had a great tournament. I would say he had a much better tournament than Bandito did.
That's what I'm hearing, and it's like Bandito's had all this buzz throughout America. Is this Bandito's first real Japanese tour?
Well, I know that he worked Dragon Gate prior to this, but I don't know, again, we just became acquainted with the guy a year ago. You know what I mean? I don't have any excuses for him or anything like that. I've gone to bat for Bandito because I've seen him have so many fantastic matches. He may have had in this tournament what was the match of the tournament.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah. So, but evidently still on a learning curve. But I want to give praise to Rocky Romero, because Rocky Romero was killer in this tournament. I didn't get to talk about it too much last week, but that match with Phantasmo, match of a lifetime. It was great to hear a crowd chant Rocky again. And
it sounded like the end of the movies.
Yeah.
And, he was about to call Adrian in the ring. And
they were chanting Rocky, and they weren't saying die or sucks.
Correct.
But Bandito picks up 2 points here. Next match of the night, Yo defeats Robbie Eagles at 11 minutes and 50 seconds, which was a shock. I was very surprised by this because... on the other side of the tournament, in this tournament, I was thinking that there was a good possibility that Yo would take the loss to Robbie Eagles, a guy that they protected all throughout the tournament, and a guy that seemingly might be in contention to potentially face Roppongi 3K for the junior titles. So to me, the logical booking decision would be Yo takes the loss here, Robbie Eagles picks up the win, and because he'd already lost to El Phantasmo, we have logical challengers for the title. Plus, with the fact that Sho was at 10 points throughout the tournament and Yo was at 10, he would take the loss. They'd be equal. Not so. Yo picks up the win against Robbie Eagles via pinfall and actually ends up with 12 points in this tournament, while Sho finished the tournament with 10. And last year, they were equal.
So, I think that kind of evens it out, but just a different way. If you look where Phantasmo finished, I believe he finished with 12, right?
That's correct. And we're going to talk about where everyone ended.
Those two teams are kind of crisscrossed.
But I think what's really interesting here is the fact that Yo ended up higher in point values than Sho did.
Right.
Not that that means everything, but we've talked at length about how they had the same amount of pinfall losses last year.
Right. They don't just book this stuff just to do it. There's something happening.
It's real interesting, especially with the fact that Sho got his own music, his own look, and was kind of positioned at the beginning of this tournament as being a big breakout star, and Yo was kind of
he just kept chipping away,
kind of being the good company guy, the chaos guy, the Roppongi 3K guy, and he ends up just a smidge further than Sho. So I think that's something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah,
real interesting. El Phantasmo defeats Doki at 14 minutes and 10 seconds. This match was good, but there was one. I don't know if you saw this spot. El Phantasmo was doing his.
Yes, I did. I saw it. Do Kai was just like
Do Kai.
Yes, I don't know what the hell they were doing up there. Like,
well, he's doing the ring walk spot or the rope walk spot.
Yeah,
and he was going for a Hurricane Rana off the top, but for something happened. Doki fell off, and it looked like he got decapitated.
Bro, it looked like one of those things that you would see, like, worst wrestling botches of the mid-2000s with, like, generic rock music over the top of it.
Have you ever seen the botch with B.J. Whitmer and Jimmy Jacobs where they almost died?
No.
Yeah, this was like that. Like, if there's not an announcement in the next few hours that because this just happened like earlier this morning, if they don't tell me Doki's like severely injured from this, I'm gonna be very surprised. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, or that man has a neck like Brock Lesnar secretly, like one of the two.
Yeah, that was crazy. But Phantasmo picks up the win here, picks up another 2 points. Unfortunately, he's not eligible to win the tournament. So we go to the final.
So before we move on, so like if that was the last of Duyuki. How did he make an impression on you? Would you like to see Do Kai return back to New Japan?
It's not so much like would I like to see him show up again. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem, but I wouldn't mark over it either. Like, he's just a guy.
A jag.
He's a jag. I mean, like, I kind of liked the fact that he brought a different like feel and look and griminess, but he kind of had an opportunity here, and I don't feel like he delivered. I do feel like his reputation for kind of sucking preceded him, and I don't know if it was completely well-deserved, but I do understand where people are coming from. But at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, this was kind of his last chance to, like, sort of, like, leave an impression, and unfortunately, he's probably going to be remembered for getting hung up on those ropes like Steve Austin 1992 stun gun. I mean, this was
gosh.
bad.
Yeah. So, best wishes, Dookie.
Dookie. Is that going to be your gimmick? Like, you're going to mispronounce his name every time?
Yes.
Then in the finals, we had a rematch of the Best Super Junior Finals from 2016. Will Ospreray taking on Ryosuke Taguchi. This match went 22 minutes and 20 seconds. We both watched this match. Rich, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was like...
Hold on. Before we move on, we need to talk about something. Before 4 weeks ago, to be exact, 4 weeks ago, I sat at this very table. I sat in this exact chair, and I said to everybody that's listening, Ryosuke Taguchi will be in contention to win this thing in the finals. I said he'll end this thing with about 10 or 12 points. And then you listened to the show, and in the group messenger, you messaged me, and you messaged out, and you said, Josh back on his bullshit, trying to get this Taguchi shit over. And you said, oh my God, trying to sell us on this Taguchi shit again.
Trying to sell these wolf tickets.
I just want everyone to know right now, I am the Chris Jericho of this show right now. I demand an apology, sir.
This guy. Well, I'm sorry. Josh, I'm sorry that you were so horrible at picking Taguchi last year. It lured me into a false sense of security that you were off the rocker once again. But it turns out that's not the case.
That last year was an outlier. This year maybe
that man finished with a smooth 6 points.
He did. But that was the worst tournament he'd had in his entire career in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I'm shocked he was invited back.
Oh my God. Believe it or not, he probably had better matches in last year's tournament than he did this year.
Man.
But he did come into this match with 12 points, and as I will take the victory. There are things I was wrong about, ladies and gentlemen. Let's before we move on, I want to say a couple things. I was wrong about Shingo. I said it was unlikely that he would finish undefeated. I didn't have the vision. I couldn't see how they would book it. Once we started discussing it, I kind of saw how it would actually turn out, and I was like, oh, they're going to put him in Ishimori. I was wrong about that. I may have gone too hard on El Phantasmo. I still don't like El Phantasmo. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But I did say he was shit and that I hated him.
That's growth.
He's not.
That's growth.
That's growth. But you know what? That was my response to the hype, because I've seen people talking about he's Prince Devitt, and that's ridiculous. And I don't think he's that good. But that's my opinion. But I don't want to offend anybody because obviously he's a decent wrestler. He can go. Mm-hmm. I just don't think I think he's a good mechanic. I just don't think he has good match structure, and I think a lot of the shit he does is like real, like kind of all over the place. Doesn't make sense logically from like a psychology standpoint. That's my problem with him.
So I'm never gonna turn down like a flashy wrestler. Like I'm here for them all. I'm easy to please.
He does some flashy stuff, but then he does other stuff that's like just like, oh god, I don't want to get into it. Anyways, but I will admit I was probably too hard, so I was probably wrong on that. I'll say that on the air. What I was not wrong about was Taguchi getting these 12 points, bitch. He got these 12 points. He got them. He's here. And every time I talk to Jeremy's like, man, I don't know. And I was like, he's in the finals against Ospreay.
However, I did maintain that he was there to lose, and lose he did.
Yeah, he did. So tell us about your thoughts on this match.
I thought it was pretty decent. Like, Will Ospreay's like, he's... I know Johnny Gargano's having all these great matches in these main events, but
he is.
Like, Will Ospreay is like, he's a dude that is doing it every night, everywhere in the world, in perhaps one of the most competitive like environments in New Japan Pro Wrestling. This guy is like, he's a revelation to the sport right now. And
remember when you used to say, he ain't Ricochet?
He's not Ricochet.
Bro, he's better than Ricochet in a way.
Man, that's
right now.
Now he's better than Ricochet.
Not from athleticism,
yeah,
but from like the overall package. And you know, Ricochet's on the main roster, so he's not allowed.
Ricochet's done having.
Ricochet's not allowed to do what Ricochet's allowed to do. That's not me bearing Ricochet. Ricochet is Ricochet, but in the grand scheme of things, Ricochet ain't Will Ospreay.
Yeah. It's sad to. I talk about Ricochet like he's a lost family member at this point, and just like a distant cousin, I had high hopes for.
That popped me just now.
Yeah, I had high hopes for him. I thought he was gonna, he went to college and he had a job lined up for him that was just gonna give him a good living and be successful. And then you find out, hold on, it all fell through, bro. Like you're working.
What happened to you?
You're working fast food, like. Like, they got you sweeping, they got you on the fries. Like, come on, man.
Oh,
like,
my God.
Like, man, I seen you, like, graduate with honors. But I think Ospreay is just, like, you can't name a match in this tournament that he didn't deliver and make his opponent rise to his level. Whether it was Dookie, whether it was Ren Narita, whether it was making Rocky Romero look like a star once again.
Bro,
this guy's a fucking, like, he's the wrestler of the year right now.
Right now, well... Kento Miyahara might say opposite of that, but you're probably in New Japan right now. It's him,
and it was similar to last year. Just like last year, he was the Worldwide Wrestler of the Year up until like the end of the Super Juniors, and then
the only difference is he's in a much different place within the trajectory of the company, where we're expecting, hopefully, most likely that he'll be involved with the heavyweights throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah,
this to me was. Will Ospreay song to the junior division, and man, not only did he make almost every single opponent that he wrestled look like $1 million, not only did he give them almost all their best matches of the tournament in the B block, but he put over two of his proteges and people that he has influence and has a hand in help bringing them into the company. He put over El Phantasmo. Put over Robbie Eagles. So he helped build two new stars on his way out when he's a guy that didn't need to put over anybody.
Yeah.
So this is a guy that's giving a lot to this division. It's a
and think about it,
like
3 years ago he debuted and won the tournament in 2016, and essentially to get to the final of his last one, where he faces essentially his biggest challenge ever in the division, he beats the guy that he originally won the first one agast.
Yeah.
So. I don't know if they did it on purpose.
I think it's very fitting.
Yeah, I don't think they did it on purpose, but like if you just step back and just look and be like, wow, if you connect all these dots together, like that's kind of a cool story.
One thing I noticed in this match, Will Ospreay and Taguchi is wildly popular in Japan. He might have his detractors here in the States and people that don't take him very seriously, but he's wildly popular. Will Ospreay, on the other hand, he's popular in places, or at least has been in the past. Like in Corkin, he's always been over, but other places, it's taken them a lot of time to even like warm up to him. A year ago on this same tour, he was not the most over guy in his block by any means, even though he was the champion, even though he was the wrestler of the year up to that point, even though he had blow-away match after blow-away match after blow-away match. It has taken the second half of that year with him overcoming guys like Taichi and Jeff Cobb and Kota Ibushi and all that. For now, he's like on a new pedestal, a new level. And on this final night, he was more over than Taguchi. There was definitely dueling chants, but they were we knew
what it was.
This match was real good. We got serious big match Taguchi, who showed up here. They had a real good match. I wouldn't call it a match of the year level caliber or anything, but I would go about a 4.25 on this. I thought it was real good. Especially there was some botches, but the finishing sequences where Taguchi started getting all the ankle locks and he had worked over Will's leg all throughout the match really had the crowd reeling. They actually started to get behind Taguchi and started believing in the upset, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if he had one, it would have been a huge upset. It would have been on the same level as...
It would have been like, take a plane to Japan and go holla at Gato and be like, what are you doing, Chief?
It would have been like Anthony Joshua getting beat up by Ruiz the other night.
Yeah, man. Apparently, that man struggled with Gabriel Iglesias, and, he just,
Listen, man, we'll talk that's for my boxing podcast. But,
yeah, the unreleased boxing podcast.
Anyone who thought that was an 11-1 underdog or 25-1 underdog didn't do their homework. They don't know about Ruiz. Ruiz is not a pushover. Look at his record. The guy had one loss. It was a majority decision. He's a killer.
It goes to show all the muscles will not protect your face. Like
yeah. Just ask Toriano how that works out.
Yeah,
he knows. But I thought this was a real good match. One thing I didn't like about it, though, was at the very, very end, Ospreay, after selling the leg the whole match and after getting his ankle torn up, he started doing all this high-flying aerial stuff at the end and wasn't selling the leg at all. So that's the one detraction I have about it. But other than that, really, really good match. He ends up winning the match with the Stormbreaker. He did kick out of the Dodon, which was a big deal, and he ends up picking up the win here. Taguchi leaves dejected. And then we get the emergence of Shingo Takagi.
Yes, after the match, Shingo came out and he was speaking Japanese and
speaking English.
Speaking English too, and
he said, "Skill,
heart,
agility,
determination,
strength. You are strong, but I am stronger." And I was like, "Yes!" Like Shingo didn't have to say much at all, and it got
like Shingo could have just walked in the ring with the mic. Looked him in his eye, dropped the mic, and then you would have known what it was.
Will did cut a promo at the end.
He cut the babyface promo. Yeah. Please love me. I'm fighting for. He's become the adopter of mental health.
Yeah.
He's like trying to make everyone just like him and all that. As he feels like he really needs their support to go beat Shingo.
Well, he does, man. He did one thing.
He was not in fear of Shingo.
He wasn't backing down. He wasn't fearful of him. He wasn't a chicken shit.
Yep.
It wasn't like Brock Lesnar showing up and everyone falling down to him, even though you're the champion. It wasn't like that at all. It was basically a big star recognizing the challenge that's in front of him, a challenge that he has to overcome, that nobody else in the company has overcome. And he said, "I'm the man to do it. I'm going to slay the dragon." I thought he cut a really good promo. I thought it went a bit long, and hats off to the Japanese audience because they don't know what he's saying, but they're so respectful. And every time he makes a point, they clap with him. That probably makes you like the best promo in the world over there. Like all you have to do is like exclaim something and give them enough time to like clap afterwards, and they're gonna do it.
Get some emotion going and just let them see the look in your eyes. And
I wonder why major North American companies don't let the foreigners do the same thing and let people get behind them.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. But yeah, so we got the first official stare down and show off between Will Ospreay and Shingo. The finals is set. The finals that so many of you wanted, so many of you predicted. Shingo versus Will Ospreay 2 days from now.
Boy.
You're going to be listening to this on Tuesday, so you're going to be listening to this the day before the Best of the Super Junior Finals, which means you're going to be listening to this and being like, wow, this is happening. So spoiler alert, we're about to get a match of the year candidate, maybe match of the year. I've already got it at a 4-star, handicap. It's already at 4 stars just for anticipation alone. It's there right now, and they haven't touched yet.
The music hasn't even hit for them to come to the ring.
So we ended night 14 with Will Ospreay overcoming Ryusuke Taguchi, which sets the stage for the rest of the Best of the Super Juniors. A couple notes just before we move on. So we talked about Ishimori being injured. Aside from that, a lot of discussion about Brody King being on this tour, working the undercards along with Marty Scurll as part of Villain Enterprises. He actually only took 2 losses during the entire tour. Both of those tag losses were to Juice Robinson.
Got to give Juice some wins with that U.S. title, I think, and Brody King, like him going over Brody King, and Brody King just being physically imposing over there and agile and everything. That gives Juice a good look because they've never really shown they've in the past they haven't always shown Juice the respect while he's the champion. They've made him take a lot of losses. So I think that was an effort to kind of combat that and make sure Juice looks good going into what we found out would be his big match.
I also read that for Best in the World, which is coming up here in the next few months, the big show that Ring of Honor has going, Villain Enterprises will be defending their 6-man World Tag Team titles. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's going to be against Lifeblood. Mm-hmm. So that might make sense as well for them to kind of set that program up on this Japanese tour as well. But real interesting, obviously the speculation is whether or not we'll be seeing Brody King again in the future, whether a potential G1 bid is in order for him, which, at first it seemed like it was, but as more and more guys make the case...
It seems like he might be the odd man out.
He might be the odd man out, but I would love to see him in it, so we'll see. We talked about Rocky Romero bringing back his Black Tiger mask, which is really cool. Ren Narita, again, going 0-9. This was real interesting. The last few nights of the tour, El Phantasmo had no music. When his entire run, we've had his music, and then suddenly, complete silence, and then we got the infamous, copyright infringement and no music. So what's going on here?
Somebody heard some music that wasn't supposed to be like.
Somebody heard something.
Yeah, somebody heard something and got what's his name on the phone? Harold May. They got him on the phone, and they were like, "We're gonna need a check." And then Harold was like, "Fuck you." And we don't pay for no music here in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
He wrote them a check, made it $0.
Yes. 0 yen.
He made it out to fuck you.
Yes.
And he shipped it off to them. He's like, the check's on the way. They got the check and they're like, what is this? And he's like, exactly what you think it is. And he hung up the phone and he put his balls on the table.
Yes. But so how about it now?
But yeah, so the word on the street, allegedly, no one knows the real scoop on this, but allegedly there was an issue with the copyrights, documents that had to be drawn up. I don't know what that means, but as smart as he is, El Phantasmo has gone to start working this into his gimmick and his character on Twitter.
Yes.
So he said basically that he rolled his ankle in the match with Taguchi. That was the only reason he lost, and because he wasn't going to be in the finals of the Best Super Juniors, we would no longer be able to listen to his music on his way out.
I love it. That's something that Jericho would do.
Later on, someone basically tweeted him and asked about someone messing up the music copyrights, and then he tweeted them and said, I have the rights to my music. I'm not letting you listen to it. How about that for a hot scoop?
Yes.
So,
awesome.
Real interesting. We'll figure out what the true story is here, but I hope that it's not an ongoing thing and this, gets resolved and worked out, here shortly.
Yeah. If you got to spend the money, if it will make this dude come off as a bigger star, you obviously believe in him based on how he was booked, spend the cake. Do it.
Yeah, because he's Prince Devitt, right?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Apparently.
But you know what? I'll say this. As far as that goes, I actually can see what people are saying so we were asked the question a few weeks ago, could he be Prince Devitt? And I dismissed it immediately. I want to kind of reiterate what I meant by that. My interpretation of that question is, could I see him as being the leader of the Bullet Club, being a star to the level of Fergal Devitt? And to be honest with you, I can't. Mm-hmm. But in terms of personality, character work, his charisma, and all that. I actually can see that. So I wasn't like dismissing that aspect of it. I just think we're in a different age. I couldn't see him usurping Jay White as leader of the Bullet Club. And maybe I sound like a Jay White defender here when I'm saying that.
Yeah, the Jay White Defense Squad over here.
Yeah, the Jay White Defense Squad. That's not exactly what I mean, but no, anyone who's like, I can see similarities between those two, I actually could as well. I was thinking when someone asked that question, could I see him being the leader and taking over and like getting to that next level? And I can't see him getting to that next level personally based on his in-ring work, but that's just my opinion. Last couple things here. So in this tournament, there was an emerging story about Robbie Eagles and a growing friction, as it would seem, between him and the rest of the Bullet Club, and maybe a little bit of an underlying story that maybe he's just a good guy, a good kid that got in with the wrong crowd. Have you heard anything about this?
I've heard about this, yes.
So part of the deal was that he respects Will Ospreay. So, we know that Will Ospreay brought him into the Bullet Club. Will Ospreay was upset originally when he decided not to join Chaos, but instead joined the Bullet Club, kind of took the easy route, took the shortcut. But throughout this tournament, he's shown respect to Will. And when it came down to them to have time for them to have their big match, there was an issue where El Phantasmo, who he was in the same block with Eagles and actually, used a lot of underhanded tactics and kind of worked heel in his match with Eagles to pick up his win there. So there was already a bit of friction. But then during the match with Will Ospreay, Robbie Eagles didn't want any interference. He wanted to beat him fair and square, have honor, do what he does. And instead, El Phantasmo helped him cheat to win, which he was upset because it wasn't that Phantasmo wanted to see him win and was so adamant about him getting the 2 points. It was more about the fact that he'd already beaten Robbie Eagles. He was further ahead of him in the points total. So if he beat Will Ospreay, who Phantasmo had also beat, that would give him a leverage and an advantage. And he was upset about the tactics. He was upset about the motives. And it kind of started to cause a small rift. And we've had a lot of...
I would imagine, like, Robbie wanted the satisfaction. Like you remember, I Gotta Know. But he didn't get to find out. He didn't get to win on his own merit.
Who said I Gotta Know? What's that from?
It's Shawn Michaels talking to Hogan. I Gotta Know.
I had to know.
Yeah, I just had to know.
Remember Shawn's promo the next night on Raw after that? Did you ever see that?
I didn't know.
So he
goes back right to being back to a babyface, right?
He comes out the next night and he was like, I had to know, and I found out that Hogan's skill, his prowess, his catch Ken acumen, he was too much for me to handle. I wasn't on his level last night.
Buried him.
He was like, his speed, his velocity, he was just too much. He still has it.
Unbelievable.
And then he's like, but guess what? One of us is here tonight and one of us isn't. So the show goes on.
Bro, that's great.
And then he moved into a program with Chris Masters immediately.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, real funny stuff. But, which, by the way, the shout out to Muzza, Murraybone. He asked me a question, or he sent me something the other day, and because it was the anniversary. How long ago was 1983?
36 years?
Yeah, it's the 36th year anniversary of Hulk Hogan winning the first ever IWGP tournament against Antonio Inoki. It just passed the other day. So shout out to Hulk Hogan. Congratulations, man. He knocked out Inoki. Shoot, that was real. And, and he's a former IWGP heavyweight champion.
According to him.
Yeah. But,
Inoki should have broke his legs.
But there's been growing discussion about whether Robbie Eagles even belongs in Bullet Club, with the fact that they have two juniors already, with the fact that he's
selling merch too now.
He's selling merch. People are getting behind him, and he had an excellent showing of himself in this tournament. But he's a smaller guy, and he's someone who really looks like, wrestles like, and feels like he should be a baby face. And it seems like maybe the company's seeing that, and they're starting to kind of like plant the seeds for this. So and I've already seen articles from various writers. This guy needs to leave the Bullet Club. He needs to get out. So that's something that happened throughout this tournament. Something to keep your eyes on. And then the last thing is, and we talked a little bit about it, but let's just discuss it real quick. Sho and Yo, 12 versus 10. What do you think?
I like it, and I like it because I wouldn't want to say like I'm a Yo supporter, but I hear everyone just talking about Sho so much, and I'm like, well, what are you guys not seeing Yo? Because Yo is a good wrestler in his own right, and of course there's a gold and silver thing. One of them got gold for a reason, right?
I think maybe some of it is look too.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it could be look.
Yeah, I think a lot of it could be the look too, and I always have the joke that Yo and Seth Rollins are the same guy. And
every single time we're watching the show, me and Jeremy, and Yo starts kicking his feet, we're like, burn it down.
Yeah. So it's like I kind of have an affinity for Yo. Like I kind of root for the guy.
You know what? I really like Yo as well, and I think that obviously this is a case where, you know what, when people say like Sean and Marty, hopefully both of their careers end up being as good or better than. Basically, hopefully both their careers are better than Marty's and maybe as good as Sean's. I mean, who can, that's such a lofty goal, but, somewhere in between there. But the reality of the matter is Sean and Marty is a great analogy because those are two of the best workers of their time. And that is kind of where Sho and Yo are. They're like two of the best junior workers of their time. And, I do see great things for both of them. I don't think it's such a matter of, like, Sho and then Yo's the lower guy.
Yeah. And that's what people make it really feel like. And I think this was an attempt by New Japan.
A little bit.
This was an attempt by New Japan to kind of, like, throw that off a scent, essentially.
Yeah. So we end this tournament. I'll go through the blocks real quick, and then we'll move on to our review or previews of Best Super Junior Finals and Dominion. Taka Michinoku picking up no wins. I gotta imagine that might not have been the case had he not got injured, but he comes out of this tournament winless. Although he might have lost everything. It's very possible.
Yeah,
given his place in the company.
Yeah, like he might have put everybody over, and they
possible.
did. Like Narita and his block had to 0. I know he's a young lion, but I mean he's a crusty old man at this point. So
Tiger Mask 4 picking up 2 wins with 4 points. Next was Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Teton. They both tied with 3 wins, getting 6 points in this tournament. There was a funny moment in one of the tag matches where Teton and Dragon Lee were on opposite sides in a tag match on one of the final nights, and they both got dismasked and were covering their faces, and then they ended up grabbing each other's masks and putting them on and wrestled a portion of the match with the other man's mask on, which was kind of hilarious. I think it was Teton. I believe it was Teton and Juice. I could be wrong, about that. But it was definitely. I'm getting all this mixed up. But yeah, it was. That definitely happened. It was real funny. Next up, Jonathan Gresham picks up 4 wins in this tournament, 8 points.
I predicted a smooth 0 for him, so it wasn't too off.
Yeah, you threw away your bracket by doing that.
I did a gimmick bracket. And I was in 3rd last time we checked.
Yeah, you might have won this thing. We don't know.
Bro, if I won this thing with a gimmick bracket, I am taking the victory lap of all victory laps on all the listeners. I'm like, you let someone that basically did a gimmick bracket win? You should be ashamed of yourselves. But, yeah.
Just above him, tying for 3rd place, Sho and Marty Scurll, both picking up 5 wins, 10 points each, very respectable. And in any other block that might have almost gotten you to the finals, it wasn't quite enough, but real interesting show. A guy who was pretty low on the brackets last year, tying with Marty Scurll, who's been a stalwart of this division in the past.
That only tells me one thing. One guy's going up, one guy's going down or out.
He's out.
Yeah.
He's getting that con money, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
We'll see. The mythical Marty Scurll contract that nobody knows. Yes, the end date is February 33rd.
February. And then coming in 2nd place, we had Taiji Ishimori and Dragon Lee, the current reigning IWGP Junior Champion, tying with 7 wins, 14 points each. Obviously, Shingo defeated Dragon Lee early in this tournament, which disqualified him from getting the win, but Ishimori going into the final night with a possibility of winning this tournament. So they tie. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. 2 of the most established guys in the division. And then Shingo Takagi, 9 wins, 0 losses, 18 points, the most dominant block victory in the history of this tournament, which tells you what this company thinks of this guy.
He's just a man. Like I find myself saying that every time I watch Shingo.
He's a man's man.
Like
William Regal.
Like, bro, like you want to have a beer with Shingo. You want to be, if you get in a fight, you want Shingo to have your back.
Yeah.
you see him wrestle, and then it's like all these dudes are just bouncing off of him. And he's just standing there with the broad shoulders, and he's got the pants pulled up high, like a wrestler in the mid-90s, up to the belly button. And he's just like...
looking like Mil Mascaras.
Yes, damn near. Like Chris Jericho in the mid-90s had the belly button covered up, and then he's just like savage.
I'll tell you what, when I go to the gym, I put up pictures of Shingo for inspiration.
Yes.
And I try to fight with the heart of a dragon.
Yes.
But so Shingo picks up the block.
Shingo, real dragon.
The real dragon. Not them fake dragons on Game of Thrones.
Yes, I totally agree with Jeremy on that. You know, they're the only dragons I know.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. They ruined my show.
They did.
In the B block, picking up 0 wins, 9 losses, 0 wins, 0 points. Ren Narita at the bottom of the block. Just above him, picking up 1 win, 2 points, Doki.
So who did Dookie beat?
He beat Ren Narita.
That's right. Boy, you sorry.
He was the one guy I thought Narita might beat, or either that or Rocky Romero, and he didn't.
Right. Even Gato ain't disrespect him that much.
Coming in with 3 wins, 6 points, Rocky Romero. Although he did tap out that punk bitch El Phantasmo fair and square in a banger of a match. Oh, what a great night. Coming in next, we had a tie, 5 wins, 10 points each, Bandito and Robbie Eagles. The big difference here, Eagles kind of leading throughout the tournament and having a bid to potentially win this tournament. Bandito kind of picking up his wins, playing spoiler at the very, very end here, and kind of getting a slow start throughout the tournament. And then for second place, we had a 4-way tie, 4 different guys with 12 points. Real creative booking from Gato, kind of, because not all these guys were in contention, but they all kind of finished in the same slot. So it kind of makes them look better than they were. But Yo, Bushi, El Phantasmo, and Ryosuke Taguchi all pick up 6 wins, 12 points.
This Bushi shit blows me. Like, I think that blows me more than the Taguchi
Bushi
shit. Yes.
Bushi's so popular, bro. He's so popular.
He's a jag. Bro, he's a jag in a mask.
In all fairness, he was a better wrestler before his injuries.
Okay.
That is true. He had that neck fusion, that one that, you know, Edge and Lita and Stone Cold, all those guys, yeah. So that's part of it. And then picking up 7 wins, winning the block, the aerial assassin Will Ospreay. Any final thoughts on this tournament?
I've heard a lot of people pontificate that it is in the running for the greatest Best of Super Juniors tournament ever. And, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't agree with that. I haven't seen other ones like throughout history. It's not like something I can just reel off memory like it's a King of the Ring tournament or something. But I think anytime you even get that conversation brought up, like, I think that you're doing something good.
I think that this was one of the most excellently booked tournaments.
Right.
I think that,
and consider who they didn't have in the tournament this year. Like,
man, the stories were great. The nights were interesting. The cards were great. In terms of just pure match quality, you know, like apples to apples, I don't think it compares to last year's tournament. And I think there are some tournaments that might have been better, but it's got to be up there. It's definitely got to be up there. But I think that what really made it was the booking and the stories.
Right. They had to lean on either guys that have been there a long time, like Rocky or Taguchi, or people that have just getting their feet wet, like Phantasmo or Robbie Eagles or Shingo. Jonathan Gresham showed up.
Bandito. They did bring in some guys. Some guys shined. Some guys really were really great. Some guys disappointed. But overall, it was a fantastic tournament. But as far as the way they booked these finals, this might be the most anticipated finals in the history of the tournament.
Like, this is a main event match anywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I really did enjoy this tournament quite a bit, and me and Jeremy are going to give our grades and our final thoughts next week. But let's move on. So we're going to talk now about the big show coming up in 2 days, the Best of the Super Juniors Finals, coming to you for the first time from Sumo Hall. Man, and we don't even have the full card announced. We've got 3 matches announced. But these 3 matches are
it's just so unique
bangers. Oh, and you know what? Actually, I apologize. Before we move on, we had a couple questions regarding the Best Super Juniors. I want to get to those. This is usually Jeremy's job, so I'm slacking. But We had a question from Muzza_44. What up, Murray? He asked
Murray Bone. I'm still not entirely convinced that that's a shoot name.
Yeah, me either.
Whatever your name is.
That's a worker's name.
Yeah, Murray Bone.
Shout out to Muzza. He was on the show last week filling in for me while I was dealing with mental issues like I was Will Ospreay. But no, in all seriousness, I did have some pretty serious things going on in my personal life that prevented me from being on the show. And he stepped in at the 11th hour. I know, probably many of you weren't used to me not being on the show. I do appreciate you guys for tuning in. Unfortunately, you got Rich on the show with me this week, so we're getting it all twisted, all messed up.
So we have the wild card rule in effect.
Wild card rule,
right?
Yeah. But he asked us. Hey Murray, I really do appreciate it coming in clutch. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening. He asked us, has the young boy finally learned the error of his ways and now knows that ELP is great? P.S. I miss Jeremy. Not a question, but the honest truth. Well, I want to say right now, Murray, I miss Jeremy too, because he does all this stuff for me, and it's hard.
Hey, Jeremy, come back.
Come back. But, yeah. Have I learned the error of my ways? I'll tell you, I think I addressed how I feel about ELP. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's great. But, again, I don't have as much exposure to him as many of you do. If you guys swear that he's great, awesome. But at this point, I've seen, 6, 7, almost 8 of his matches. I think he is a talented and athletic guy. I don't think he's the smartest worker. And if you know anything about me as a wrestling fan, I'm all about that psychology. And some of you might say, well, he's doing great character work. I don't think he is. I think it's like real lazy, real sloppy. His run in this tournament reminds me a lot of Jay White's G1 last year. Mm-hmm. The same stuff every night. Now, did Jay White turn out to be a fantastic worker? He did, but we were pretty low on him before that Juice match last year. Now, I think that ELP is obviously a much better character than Jay was, a much more charismatic guy. He's getting over with the crowd. He has a lot of upside. He has a great look. There are things that people like about him. And I see all that stuff, but I don't like his wrestling. Mm-hmm. His wrestling's not that good. He just does some flashy stuff. His match structure is not good to me. And in this tournament, that really mattered a lot because, and he did have some good matches. Mm-hmm. The Rocky Romero match was incredible. The Will Ospreay match was incredible. But I didn't feel like he was the star of either of those matches. I don't feel like he made either of those matches. And I don't want to bury him too much. But, yeah, I'm not up on ELP yet. Now, I'll tell you this. I'm a flexible guy. If I see him be great, I'll turn around and I will change my mind and I will get on the ELP bandwagon. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I saw that tag match before the tour, and I was like, well, I'm in. So
I was too. My anticipation from this tournament was really high off of that match, but then it was a lot of the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again.
And that can be fatiguing, especially you start figuring out someone's patterns, and then you're like, oh, here comes the bullshit.
But some guys have the same pattern like Will Ospreay, and you never get tired of it.
I mean,
it wasn't the pattern.
That's different.
It wasn't the pattern. It was the structure or the lack thereof. It's just real plotting and real meandering. And you know what? I know I'm in the minority. There are I've seen discussions online where people talk about this guy and they love him, but then there's always those 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are in the comments who feel the same way I do. So I know I'm not alone in this. Mm-hmm. I'm not just an outlier who's the one guy. There are other people who feel this way, but I do think for overall, I will say the majority of people do, they're on, they're in with this guy. So no. Another question we had from Asai_you. Jimbo, do you think Robbie Eagles will eventually leave Bullet Club? If so, how? So we kind of discussed this a bit and talked about it and said, yeah, it kind of seems like they're planting the seeds. How do you see this playing out?
I mean...
Or how would you do it if you had the book, if you're Gato?
If I was Gato and I had him and Phantasmo, I would link Phantasmo to the story because he's already an integral part. I guess you put them in the Super Junior Tag League together, and you have a fallout there somehow. Like either they can win it and then come up short. Whenever they challenge,
they win the tournament, they come up short, and then it causes the rift, and then maybe they end up splitting off that.
Yeah,
that's a good. I actually think that's a great way to go. I agree with you. So that's a great question. Thank you guys for the question. So let's discuss Best of Super Junior finals. Let's start with the match that is on everybody's mind, the match that we had no idea we were getting. This match is for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. We have the defending champion, Juice Robinson, defending against the Mystery Man, the Time's Up Man, the one, the only, Jon Moxley.
Unbelievable, as Biggie Smalls once said, track 16 are ready to die. This guy, now, if you want more Jon Moxley coverage, I don't know how much we're going to talk about it today. I did a whole show yesterday breaking down, like, the podcast with James, like, about...
We don't have to break it down, but I have notes on all that. I want to talk about... I want to talk about him debuting at Double or Nothing. I want to talk about his Talk is Jericho, the Wade Keller stuff, 25 years later interview, the Time Up video, all of it. Because he's been doing a lot of incredible press.
And it's been going on longer now, we know, than we would have even thought. Like, this video, or the original video that he announced to his Twitter, was shot back in February. This thing that's been playing even before the Best of the Super Junior tour.
No, it started on the Best Super Junior.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I thought it
started at the end of Dantaku.
Okay. Yeah.
You're right. I apologize.
So, and it's just been like, yo, whatever it is, it sounds cool. The music is great. Spoiler alert, that's how we're ending the show. But the whole, it threw you off because you saw the UK flag in there and everyone assumed it was from the UK, and then just like Moxley, he's so quiet on social media, and he's dumped that on his head and become almost the most compelling guy in wrestling right now.
Well, one thing too is, like, I didn't think of Moxley because even though his contract was coming to a close, and even though he had just left the company, he had literally just left the company. This video started airing like a day or 2 days after he left the company, and after he debuted that video that set the world on fire. But me and Jeremy, we're kind of in our own New Japan World bubble. You know, we're discussing this company. I'm not thinking about the idea that maybe they had this in the works all along. As a good friend of the show, James Boyd, likes to say, this man was tampered with.
Yes.
They tampered with his contract.
Yes.
Because they had this video ready to go just days.
All Gator had to do was press a button.
They pressed a button.
Press the damn button!
Yeah. They pressed a button and they had it ready to go. But, you know, like you said, that UK flag was a red herring. The other thing, too, a couple reasons I didn't think it was Jon Moxley. In my mind, I'm thinking Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose isn't a guy that I've ever thought I would see in New Japan or even considered about being in New Japan.
Right.
The other thing, too, is something about these videos was very mind games-ish. You know, it reminded me of like a 90s Undertaker. Not that it would be a dark character, but, you know, he's playing mind games. And, like, to me, it's like, I think of Dean Ambrose, I think of the Lunatic Fringe. Like, this crazy guy who, like, doesn't have nuance and doesn't play mind games with people. I mean, he is crazy, but, like, I don't think of him as being this... I'm still thinking of that character, Dean Ambrose. So I'm not thinking of a guy who's, like, playing subtle games with Juice. And what would their connection even be? Now we know it's the FCW connection and all that, but I would have never pieced these two together.
Yeah.
Never in a million years.
It's crazy. And I think the fact he's coming in immediately, I think he has to beat Juice. And I don't know, and this red belt is kind of like, it's been a Kenny Omega vanity belt before. It's been something to get Jay White over. It's been something they completely forgot about with Cody. It's been something they had on Juice. Just let him get beat like a drum. So if they're ever gonna do experiments, this is the perfect belt to do it with.
Well, we sat here for so many weeks considering all the possibilities, who it might be, going through all the different, you know, usual suspects and kind of speculating. This is one where Keeping a Strong Style was way off base. We didn't have it right. Nobody had it right. There was nobody online that was like, it's going to be Moxley. No one was saying that. So he kind of pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. But it became apparent last week after Double or Nothing. So let's kind of go through the timeline here. So Double or Nothing happens. We close the show at the end of the main event. You know, Jericho standing, and suddenly Jon Moxley comes out. Tell us what your thoughts were with that.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's not a work. All you damn assheads that were, would run this It's a Work propaganda thinking.
Shout out to Ricky.
Ricky is not an asshead. Ricky called me the day after and reached out to me, so I did not have to reach out to him. So forever, and Ricky is observing Ramadan right now. So best wishes to Ricky. But everyone else that was on the internet,
you can go to hell.
You can go to hell.
Oh my God.
And you know, the whole thing, you later find out even WWE didn't know, or he didn't know why WWE did the deal with announcing he wasn't going to re-sign, so they just shrouded this guy in mystery.
We'll get to that, and we'll discuss the interviews, because I know you have thoughts on that.
But like, as far as Double or Nothing, like, he immediately inserted himself at the top of the wrestling world, going right after Chris Jericho, going right after Kenny Omega, and that seems like it's going to be his first program. And then you start finding out, okay, he can work internationally. Okay, he's going to be a big draw around the world.
Right. And even then, once we knew like that the word was coming out, like he had the ability to work other places, we still weren't putting the pieces together.
Right. They were like, international. I was like, oh, maybe he'll go to the UK or something. Like, you know.
He might show up for a death match in Big Japan.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
Why would...
New Japan Pro
Wrestling. Of course he's going to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're freaking idiots. We don't know anything. We got work.
Simple marks. That's all we are.
So he comes out Double or Nothing. We had our party here. If you guys haven't listened to my review of Double or Nothing on All Things Elite, we had a huge pay-per-view party. We had a great time watching AEW, which, by the way, we're not going to discuss that show in depth, but that show has revitalized my fandom in pro wrestling.
Yes.
One of the best North American pay-per-views in all of history. Better, I would actually go on record right now and say it's better than every single main roster pay-per-view that WWE has ever produced. They had a 5-star match as rated by Dave Meltzer on their very first show, which some companies never have one of those, which is just incredible. Yeah. But they topped it all off with Moxley coming out. So just the pop that he got that night, the surprise, the probably the heat that's backstage at WWE, everything going into this.
And like there are moments when you're a wrestling fan, right, that you won't forget.
Yes.
And it's not only the moment that's happening, it's what you feel when it's happening. And I felt like I was watching the birth of a new era. Like, I've seen him come out of the Dean Ambrose costume that he had been putting on for all these years and then reveal himself to be this new star. And really, the potential is unlimited. And I said it on One Nation Radio. You can say whatever you want about his wrestling and everything like that. And we have been spoiled since 2016 with the amount of great matches that have happened in wrestling. And it's like, I love all the 5-star matches. I love the breaking the scale. I love everything about that. But there's going to be nothing more compelling than a person's voice that can talk to you, that has that ability.
Well, he cut an incredible promo after Double or Nothing talking about how he's going to shake the pillars of this industry, which was awesome. I feel like this is the most seismic debut and on-screen moment that has happened in pro wrestling since probably Jericho showed up in New Japan. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, like what comes to mind prior to that? It's like, what, the pipe bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about big moments, and that's how big this moment was. After that, throughout the week, they finally announced that he would be showing up, that he was the Time's Up guy. They played the video and finally announced that Moxley was coming June 5th to Sumo Hall. We still didn't know what that meant. We didn't know if it meant he was going to show up and confront Juice, if he's going to just sneak attack him, they're going to have a press conference, if they're going to have a future match, or if it'd be a title shot. We did not know. They made it official earlier this week, or last week I should say, that he would be challenging on this show for the title against Juice Robinson. But before we talk about that, let's talk about these interviews that he's been cutting. So he did one earlier on Wednesday with he came on and did Talk is Jericho, which is one of the most renowned podcasts. They're doing almost the same numbers that Keepin' It Strong Style does every week. But he was on Talk is Jericho. Then he followed it up with a 2-part interview on the Wade Keller podcast. And then he did a
print interview.
A print interview with 25 Years Later. And everything he's been saying has been...
He's just been spitting flames.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't say that like he's been like, you know, whatever, but he's
like it's a dumpster fire, but like he's spitting, he's Dylon.
Yeah,
he spits hot fire, y'all.
Spitting fire, like he's melting, like, you know, he's pretty much confirming everything that everyone thought about that company.
Who are the 5 greatest talkers in wrestling? Moxley right now.
He
spits hot fire.
Yes. And he basically confirmed, just with painstaking detail, everything that we thought sucked, he thought sucked, and basically exposed the creative process and Vince McMahon and everything that has to do with that, and people that bend over backwards so far they come out on the other side to carry Vince McMahon's water. They were in silence all week.
You know, there's a lot that he discussed. He discussed the creative process. He discussed the problems with Vince's methodology and his ways of thinking. He talked about, you know, on the Wade Keller podcast, he talked at length about things like stuff with Roman, stuff with Austin, stuff with Brock, and you should definitely listen to those if you get a chance. He also discussed coming to New Japan, and he talked about the fact that when he would wrestle he only has wrestled in Japan, according to him on the podcast, with WWE, they'd always go to Sumo Hall. And he said that of all the places he wrestled, that was his favorite because he liked the Japanese culture, but he never got to do it in the true Japanese presentation. It was always the WWE product. And if you know anything about WWE, it's still WWE.
Yeah.
He said, so the fact that he gets to make his debut in this company, wrestling for New Japan in the building that he's wrestled in so many times, but in this new format, that's incredible. One thing I want to focus on, aside from just all the anti-WWE stuff, is how this guy is reinvigorated for pro wrestling, and how he's saying that he's going to change his entire concept, his entire gimmick, his entire moveset, everything he's doing. That
is like admirable to hear that, because he's a guy that's made a bunch of money in the business. There's no reason for him to feel this hungry except that it's inside of him.
Yeah.
And he loves it.
Yeah.
And that's always, you know, as fans, I think we identify more with wrestlers that want to really put their all into it, whether it be for themselves or for us, right? Now with Moxley, he's going to write the rest of his career on his terms. He's been bottled up forever, and him deciding, like, I'm going to start doing different moves, I'm going to start, you know, wrestling all around the world and doing different styles, you can only admire that. And if you don't, you're a hater.
Yeah. Absolutely. So right now Moxley's coming into this company as, not most likely, but right now the hottest like star in all of pro wrestling. He's got the most buzz, and he's taking on Juice Robinson, a guy who came to this company and decided, even though he had experience, even though he had that WWE pedigree, he came in as a young lion. He came in the right way, and he's been with this company. There was interest just last year from WWE for him to sign over there, prior to all the seismic shifts in the industry and all the stuff going on with contracts, and he decided to stay with New Japan. And he actually has been doing quite a bit of press for this as well. He talked about, during one of the post-match press conferences, he said, "John, when you get here, I'm going to punch you in the face," which was awesome. He also did a press conference on May 28th announcing that it would be a title match. You can actually watch that on NJPW World or on YouTube. He also was featured on Chris Charlton's podcast, the NJPW official English podcast, episode 5, and he talked in depth about the history between these two competitors and what this kind of means to him. He did have an interesting take where he said it doesn't matter if he wins or loses, he plans to win, but regardless, he's in a win-win situation, because if he wins, if he loses, then he's basically losing to the hottest star in the entire company. The fact that he was matched up and entrusted to be the first match for Jon Moxley in New Japan shows that they see him on that same level.
Hell, his first match anywhere.
Yeah. This is before he even has the matches with AEW.
Right.
So they see him it elevates him because he's going up against the hottest star in all of wrestling. People are going to have their eyes on it. This isn't quite Kenny Omega versus Jericho, but in a sense, it's akin to that same idea that they trust him to be the guy to bring him in and to kind of get him over. And he's like, and the thing is I've wrestled this style. I know this style. I can make this guy. And if I lose, I'm losing to the hottest star. All eyes are going to be on me. He's like, but the thing is, if I beat him, then I'm made.
Yes.
And so I love that idea. He did talk about their time in Florida Championship Wrestling and everything like that.
So when he lost to him, he's like essentially the equivalent of a young boy. So FCW canon, in New Japan. Who knew?
Yeah. So that's awesome. But this match with Juice and Moxley, let's talk about it for a minute. What are your anticipations, and are you excited to see Mox here? Where do you think he's going over? You think Juice is losing?
I think Juice is losing.
Do you?
Yes. I don't think Moxley's taking a plane to Japan to go lay his shoulders on the mat. I think New Japan's best strategy right now is to get the IWGP U.S. title on him. Maybe for the summer, there's no reason really for that belt to be around during the G1. I mean, spoiler alert, maybe Moxley's in the G1 as well.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much counting on it. He's dropping hints like he's going to be doing that. I think you bring the guy into the company for his first appearance strong.
We did get a question from Reddit user IL Monaco 1900. He says, do you think Moxley will enter the G1?
I think he will. And as we were saying earlier with Brody King, more people are kind of circling the wagons on looking like they could be G1 entrants. He might be a guy that's outside. Jon Moxley would definitely be a guy inside, and this might be something like a bucket list item. It might be the only time he ever gets to do this again, because from now on, AEW TV will be running after that, and he has that free gap in his schedule where there are no dates, there are no movie shoots, there are no autograph signings. It's all free dates for the G1. It's there for a reason.
So I will say this. As far as Juice and Moxley goes, I think it is interesting that they're giving Juice the opportunity to face Jon Moxley. I've got my reservations about Jon Moxley coming into the company. Not that he's not a great wrestler, not that he can't go, but I've never seen him wrestle the Japanese style. I think it makes a lot of sense that they're putting him in there with a guy like Juice, who has wrestled on the U.S. Indies, who has wrestled in WWE, who's probably a little bit more accustomed to the style of wrestling that Mox might bring in. Mox did say that when he comes in, he's going to be a different guy, but he did allude to a brawling style, which might mean he comes in similar to how Sami Callihan was in New Japan when he was here, or even Chris Jericho. I think it is kind of interesting how many guys, U.S. indie guys, when they get to New Japan, if they're not used to the style, they start brawling. That's their go-to.
You know what it is? What I think it is? I think it's wrestlers being wrestlers and studying the history of what Americans always did in Japan. Gaijins? Yeah, I'm gonna go over there and be Bruiser Brody or Stan Hansen. I'm gonna be Terry Funk. And it's no, you're not gonna be Terry Funk or Bruiser Brody or any of those people.
I mean, Jon Moxley,
unless you're Chris Jericho.
Although I will say Jon Moxley has a lot of similarities to Terry Funk.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I've got real apprehensions and hesitations about Jon Moxley coming to New Japan. We've had questions for a long time on the show. Would you like to see Dean Ambrose in New Japan? People have asked us that so many times, and I've always been like, I can't see it. And and Jeremy said, I can't see it. I could never ever see it. Now it's happening, and we're gonna see it, and I don't know what to expect. And I'm excited for it, but I'm also is he gonna be able to hang?
Right. It better work. Because he's betting on himself. It's like
a gamble because he's coming now. Maybe I'm a fool for not believing in him. Maybe I should just believe in him, and that's kind of the vibe I'm starting to get.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a gamble that AEW's letting their biggest, hottest free agent come in and have a match in New Japan before he's even been on TV, before he's even had any matches for them. So that kind of shows a level. It's not that they have a say in it, but somewhat a level of trust that this is even happening in the first place.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a possibility Jon Moxley would be in the G1. When this first was discussed in our group thread, people were like, he won't do it. And I was like, Jon is the kind of guy who, A, wants to do it, and B, is crazy enough to do it. And if he's not going to, like you said, if he's not going to do it now, when? This is his time.
Yeah.
This is his time to be that foreigner from another company. This is very akin to a lot of those WCW guys doing G1s back in the mid-90s.
Rick Rude or something.
Rick Rude or Scott Norton or Flair or any number of these guys. That's what Jon Moxley is here, and I'm all for it. Every year we get these G1s, and they're always amazing, but it's been a long time since we had an outsider come in and be in one of these tournaments. And, I think the last time that someone notable was here was like Marufuji, and it's been a while.
I mean, we had Dookie,
Well, that's Super Juniors. We're talking about G1, sir. But my last couple thoughts about this before we move on. Moxley winning the title is a possibility because you've got to imagine, it's like, I don't think he's coming here to take an L.
Right.
But at the same time, I can't imagine him holding the belt in New Japan, and if that even would be a good thing unless he's going to stick around and defend it. So it's like, if he wins it, then I think he's definitely going to be in the G1 because you got to have the champion in the G1. You don't want him doing a Chris Jericho or a Cody and just...
People will get upset.
People will get mad if he just mercs with the title. And the thing is, I think I would be too, because we've kind of given allowance to New Japan for letting these foreign stars from WWE come in and do this. But if they just do it again, now we're setting a bad precedent. Now we've got a bad habit. Now it's devaluing things with the titles and the booking.
They do have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
And I think they can't get caught in the trap of, we always joke, Western expansion.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think they have kind of slowed their strategy down, but I think Mox is a perfect guy to, kind of fill that gap as, a freelancer, because I think Jay White's only going to go so far in this country,
right,
as having that appeal. But if you can combine him with a Will, with a Moxley, with a Saber, I think he's a good stopgap.
Well, I think the thing is, Juice is not as big of a deal in the States as John is, but John's not as big of a deal as Juice is in over there, not yet. And so I think this is a great way to draw Western audiences to put eyes on this. The other thing, too, is that it elevates Juice, because even if John's not a big deal over there, you got to imagine that the fans over there are hearing the buzz. They know about AEW.
They've seen the videos.
They've seen the videos. They know what's going on. Plus, they did an incredible job with the vignettes that built to this match that we talked about. So the hype is here, and the hype is real. I'm going to also predict that Jon Moxley wins this. I don't know how good the match is going to be. I'm hoping if it's over 3.5, then it's probably going to be a success. But, we're going to learn how good Jon Moxley is, because we talked about how bad Jay White was for so long, and he got an incredible match out of Juice. Not that Juice is a bad wrestler. Juice is a great wrestler.
Yeah, I like Juice. And I think...
This might also tell us how good of a wrestler Juice is.
And we always hear about how when people are bottled up in WWE having the same matches over and over. Now you got the freedom. Let's see it.
There's always a learning curve, though. A lot of those guys, when they come out, they're not at their best. Sometimes it takes a little while for them to get their feet wet, to get acclimated. So I'm not expecting a match of the year caliber match here, but I'm hoping that a guy gets over, whether it's in loss or a win.
Right.
But I am concerned about where Juice goes from here if he does lose. I'm also concerned about what this means for the title going forward.
Yeah.
But I think that this is very exciting. The fact that they're in Sumo Hall, this really feels like a big deal. So this is exciting.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the when this match got announced, it's like, okay, I knew the Jay White and Tanahashi match was there. I knew Shingo and Will. This is something different. This gets New Japan out of the New Japan bubble.
Yes.
And yeah, this is suddenly a huge show.
Yes. Suddenly. So, and we knew it would be, being Sumo Hall, but this is awesome. So let's move on to the next match of the night. We have the ace of the universe, Hiroshi Tanahashi, taking on the leader of the Bullet Club, the Switchblade, Jay White.
It's time to get them wins back. The ace rise again.
Oh my God.
It's time to get them wins back.
So to make it simple, we got a question from Rambones_SlamPig. He asked, who do you think will get the win in the Tanahashi-Jay White match?
The ace. Look, he took 2 swords off. He had a legitimate injury.
It was legit.
I know.
Oh my God.
And then he got the rest for the whole Super Junior tour. So best believe he's coming back. The hair will be intact. The hair will be immaculate, and he will hit the high fly flow on Jay White to get this win back.
This is definitely a crossroads match. So the last time we saw Jay White and Tanahashi wrestling was earlier this year during the New Beginning Tour. Tanahashi had just come off of his IWGP victory over Kenny Omega in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. And in his very first title defense, he lost to the surging Jay White. Now we're in June, and it's a very different complexion for both guys. As you mentioned, Tanahashi is coming off injury. He's had some time off. He lost the belt. He lost his feud with Zack Sabre Jr. He didn't have such a great going in the New Japan Cup this past year. So he's kind of, had some time off and suffered some losses. Whereas Jay White was riding high and went into that main event at Madison Square Garden against Kazuchika Okada. He also dropped the title in his first defense to Okada in New York. We were there in attendance. An incredible match.
Awesome match.
Those are two of the best matches of the year. They were both matches that Jay White was involved in. And I thought that the Tanahashi-White match was the best match that these two have had together. They do have quite a history going back. They've had last year 3 matches together. They wrestled, two matches last year, and then they had a match previously at a Wrestle Kingdom when Jay White returned. They wrestled at the G1 last year. They also wrestled for the title opportunity at Dominion last year. Or was that... No, I'm sorry, King of Pro Wrestling. Yeah, it was King of Pro Wrestling.
King of Pro Wrestling.
So Tanahashi and White, they are tied 2-2. This is their 5th match together, unless you count the Young Lion match, which I don't. Tanahashi did do an interview. You can read it. Real interesting. It was on NJPW 1972, where he discussed the fact that even though he was the ace of the Heisei era, he wants to also come into the Reiwa era and still be the ace.
Tanahashi, that doesn't shock me at all. Like, Tanahashi's the type of like, yeah, when I'm 50, I still want to be the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Tanahashi doesn't shock me at all.
But no titles on the line, but both of these guys coming off of major losses. It's a crossroad match. Yeah. And you kind of got to wonder where they go from here, because these are two guys who are rebuilding at this point.
Yeah, it's such a weird time because Dominion is literally days later, and it's like, where do both of these guys end up on the Dominion card? Do they have an immediate rematch? Do they, one of them challenge for whoever wins the U.S. title match? Like, is this like some kind of eliminator?
Well, we did talk about earlier in the year how it was a ballsy move for New Japan to have this very ambitious schedule that they had, and the fact that they're going from Sumo Hall to Osaka, or that's where Dominion is, Osaka Joe Hall, right? Mm-hmm. Just days later. And so it does kind of feel like in the past they might not have had these types of matches split between these two cards, and maybe this would have been on the Dominion card, but instead they've kind of split it, and it does feel like, well, where do they go from here? I don't know. I've got a feeling that they might wind up in multi-man matches during Dominion if nobody gets hurt or killed or anything like that. But, you got to wonder what's going to happen here. I sort of feel like Jay White needs the win more than Tanahashi does. But then again, you have the G1 right around the corner where both guys can get rehabbed. So who needs the momentum going into the G1 more? I think long-term, Jay White needs the rehab more than Tanahashi does.
I think Jay White needs to have a great G1 this year.
Oh, he absolutely does.
Because last year left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, mine included. And I don't think a loss is the worst thing in the world for him here, because he already is kind of in the like a free fall, sort of. Like, he's come to the ring looking upset. He doesn't have the belt with him the last time we've seen him, at least.
Yeah.
And Tanahashi did take a big loss recently. Yeah, you're right. This is a crossovers match. It could go either way.
I got to tell you, I think Jay White's going to win here. And the reason that I think Jay White's going to win here is because Tanahashi had his redemption story last year, after what we thought might be the end of Tanahashi after all those injuries with Suzuki, and then, the Crossroads match with Okada, and we thought he was done. He suddenly surged during the G1. He came back, beat Kota Ibushi. He headlined against Omega, beat him, won that historic, regained the title. He kind of completed that arc. Not to say that Tanahashi's done. I don't think he's done, but I don't think he's going to ascend to that same level. And Jay White is definitely a guy on the rise. We saw him just defeat Goto on the previous tour in a great match. And I feel like Goto's kind of like that step below who represents that, kind of like that Heisei sort of guy. The next guy is Tanahashi, a guy that he's got a lot of history with. I think Jay White needs to beat Tanahashi here. Whether it's clean, whether it's through nefarious means, I'm not sure. But he already has the one-up on Tanahashi by beating him earlier this year in a clean manner. And Tanahashi is he's had a lot of time off, and he's going to come back. And what's the usual story? He takes a lot of time off. He comes back, and he's good to go. I think he's going to think he's good to go. He's going to take a loss to Jay White, and he's going to be doubting himself going into the G1. I really do see Jay White picking up the win here.
Yeah, man. We will see. We will see.
But they they have different matches every time, and so I am looking forward to this. Even though we've seen this match several times in the past, in the very recent past, each match has been unique and different from each other. So hopefully this one builds upon what they've done in the past and is really good. And then let's talk about the main event. The one that we're all here for. We have Will Ospreay taking on Shingo Takagi, the best of the Super Juniors Finals 26.
Man, it's like, where do you begin with this? You got an undefeated guy against like the wrestler of the year. Who do you want to beat? Like, do you want to beat Shingo now, or do you save that for later?
Ooh.
I think you save that for later. Because ultimately, are we just going to put the juniors title back on Will Ospreay? We don't quite need that, because Will might be saying his swan song to the division. If it was me, I could see Shingo and Will having an absolute classic here. Shingo rolling on through Dominion, changing the face of the junior division from this high flying, pretty boy wrestling essentially, and turning it to like, yo, there's a dude here, and he's not coming to deal with anyone's shit. Like, you are going to get destroyed by this man. And eventually, you build up your next star. Maybe even have Hiromu have to fight his own guy essentially for the belt. I don't know, but
so this is one of the best built junior matches in years. Will Ospreay, we thought he sort of kind of graduated from the junior division. After taking that loss to Marty Scurll during the title eliminators last year to crown a new champion after Hiromu left the division, he stopped having juniors matches, and he started wrestling in tags with Tanahashi. He kind of went into the Never division. He defeated Kota Ibushi, and then all throughout the first quarter of this year, he was defeating heavyweights. He was beating guys like he beat Jeff Cobb. He beat Lance Archer. Who's the guy from Ring of Honor that we don't really love that he beat during the Ring of Honor tour? The guy who always goes like this. He has the boys with him. Dalton Castle.
Yeah.
He beat Dalton Castle. He's beaten quite a few heavyweights through this run. Bad Luck Fale, you know what I mean? He took Okada to the limit. Like, he's been in the heavyweight division as part of the Taichi, all these guys.
This is just a sign of great booking. It's like they've laid foreshadowing with that, like him handling heavyweight type guys, and then Shingo has just been undefeated. Like, so
and then
what's gonna give?
And then you have Shingo, who's looked like nothing but a juggernaut, but all throughout his beginning run, he's had no singles matches. He had one singles match with Shota Umino, which was a great match. No singles runs. He's just looked like a juggernaut. He's been in the tag division, in the junior title.
They were hiding him.
They were hiding him. Then this tournament came about, and he has run roughshod, person after person after person after person. He went undefeated. Now we're at a point where Will has actually taken a couple juniors losses in this tournament, maybe under questionable means, but he's still taking losses, where Shingo's undefeated. And so you've got this guy who's been in the heavyweight division, who's been winning, who's looked like a better, bigger, more violent version of himself, versus a guy who's always just been a violent version of himself. And
he was born this way.
And it's the match that when people were like, well, what are they going to put in Sumo Hall? And it's like, this is the match you got to do. And we got it.
Bro, I think they're going to draw an incredible crowd. This is like a fever pitch match.
This is going to be the biggest Best of Super Junior final in 22 years.
Yeah.
In terms of what it's already determined that that's the case with what they've drawn. Yeah. It might wind up being the biggest Best of Super Junior final in history. We saw the face-off that they had at the end of the June 3rd show earlier this morning, and it was awesome to see them face-to-face for the first time. Ospreay did do an interview on NJPW 1972 that you guys can check out, where he discussed what winning this tournament would mean to him. He also talked about how he wants to put juniors on the map, and that he wants juniors to start headlining major shows like Dominion and Wrestle Kingdom and elevate that title.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. But ultimately, it really just comes down to who's going over. And my question to you is this. If Shingo wins and Ospreay loses, and we assume Ospreay's going to the G1, going to the heavyweights, does that devalue him and make it... Is it something where it's like, well, Ospreay lost, but it's believable because it's Shingo, and he's fine, and he can rehabilitate?
I think that's the case.
Or is it something where it's like Shingo wins, and it's like Shingo needs to leave? Or do both of those...
I think both of them eventually need to leave.
Happen?
Yeah, I think both of them eventually need to leave. I don't think either guy would be hurt by a loss because Shingo...
Well, I don't know. Could Shingo be hurt by a loss to Ospreay here? With how much they built this up? But at the same time, he's got to lose at some point. Is this the time
No,
that you do
I don't think you waste this here. Like, if you're going to beat Shingo, that has to be at a Dominion. That has to be...
So you think this is where they make him? This
is where they make him. Like, they be like, look, man, y'all know we protect this dude in the tag teams. We protected him in the tournament so far, and all he's done is just whoop ass.
Yeah.
You gotta validate the ass whoopings here, and that's what you do with the trophy here.
Do you think that there's... What are your expectations as far as the quality of this match? What do you think is going to happen?
I think we're staring at like 4 3/4 or 5 stars. And they're gonna Shingo's gonna do a Dragon Gate match, and Will Ospreay's gonna be with him. Like, whatever you want to do, bro, it's on.
I think there's a good likelihood, and this might be lofty, but they have the potential to do it. The talent that's in the ring, the build, the atmosphere, the layout. This could be the match of the year.
It's on the table if they want it.
If they want it, it's there for the taking. But I got to tell you, I agree with you. I think that they're going to go with Shingo Takagi. I think Shingo Takagi is going to win this. Now, another question to you, though. The winner of this is most likely going on to Dominion to face the IWGP Junior Champion, which is Dragon Lee. We just saw Shingo defeat Dragon Lee in the tournament.
Right.
That would obviously entitle him to a future title shot. But is it too fast since we just saw that match happen? Could we be looking at something where it's a red herring and maybe Will Ospreay is actually getting that spot at Dominion against Dragon Lee?
That is a valid concern. And I think this is the sign of good booking because every situation creates what happens next, and then you're compelled by all of them, or you just don't know, and it's like, well, I guess we got to watch. And then
how often have we seen it where it's like, well, the obvious answer here is Gato's putting this guy over, and then he does the opposite of it because that's the way he books. There is that possibility, but I got to tell you, the money's on the table to make Shingo. I think this is where you make Shingo. I think there's some people who might be saying in their mind, well, they made Shingo because he went undefeated, and now he doesn't need the win, and he's fine if he takes the loss.
No,
I think they need to have him go over here.
Right. This would just be someone flopping at the end of like getting to the finals, going undefeated to the playoffs and then losing in the finals. Like, no, you don't get anything for that. You still get nothing.
Right.
Like, we don't care you went undefeated. You lost. Like,
I don't know if it's quite that dramatic, but I do see what you're saying, and I think it would be a waste of his tournament to have him go undefeated and then take the loss. Plus, like you said, the fact that Will's been in this division for a long time, it wouldn't make sense to have him, and then at that point, it's like, okay, so Will wins. Now he's against Dragon Lee. Does he need to beat Dragon Lee and win the title again? Or does him losing to Dragon Lee make more sense than it would be to Shingo? I think losing to Shingo makes more sense.
Right. And because obviously Dragon Lee is going to continue to be a junior, and Shingo is like either a monster junior or leaving with you.
Right, so I'm in agreement. I think Shingo's winning here. Now, we got a couple interesting things that we need to discuss before we finish this section. There was a teaser video came out earlier this morning. Hiromu Takahashi, who's been out for almost a year now. We've been wondering, speculating, when is he coming back? What's going to happen when he comes back? Because Shingo's there now. He put a teaser video up earlier today. In the teaser video, it said something there's a caption that said, everybody needs healing. and it started off with him holding Daryl, and the classic Daryl is blue, and then he started drawing Daryl, and he had a different name. I think it was Narora, and he drew what looked like Daryl, but it was pink. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking maybe it's like Daryl Jr. or something like that, or a new version of Daryl. I'm not sure, but he drew a pink Daryl, and then suddenly you could see he was holding a pink Daryl, and then at the end of the video there was some Chinese, or that's racist, some Japanese symbols that popped up, and then it said 6/5/19, which is the date of Best of the Super Juniors. So he might be making his return. And that throws a whole wrinkle in the mix. Is he coming to celebrate with Shingo if Shingo wins? Is he coming to avenge Shingo if Shingo loses? Is he coming to show up to say that Shingo won the tournament and he's not even challenging for the title, and maybe he's going to cede his victory and his spot to Hiromu so he can challenge Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
And maybe Shingo's like, I've already dominated this division. I'm challenging for a different belt, which he has talked about on social media previously. He said, I'm going to win every match, and then who says I even have to challenge for the junior title?
Yeah.
So are we seeing Hiromu come back? What do you think's going to happen?
Man, literally, that's like, we're opening up Pandora's box like here. There's like just so many possibilities. I like the one you said, like, I'm going to win, and I'm going to give Hiromu this title shot to win the belt he never lost. Stuff like that.
Or what if Hiromu shows up and said, because there's always been friendly rivalries within LIJ. We've seen a lot of LIJ members.
I'll fight you for it.
I'll fight you for it, yeah.
Boy. That's a lot to come back from on a broken neck. To fight Shingo.
What if he shows up and he says, like,
you have one more opponent.
You're
me.
This is gonna be his cash in. He's cashing in. No, but what if he was like, I never chose you to be part of this. You're not real LIJ.
Oh my god. You're not the real LIJ.
We did get a question from Reddit user Senor Sombrero 3K. Says, if we assume Shingo is winning the tournament and most likely the title at Dominion, how long do you envision Shingo holding the title for, considering New Japan isn't renowned for long junior title reigns? And do you see him moving up to heavyweight after this?
I would think if he wins it, he holds it till Wrestle Kingdom, and then when they reset the year, he's a heavyweight.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly. That although you could see him losing it on a major show like a Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, like a King of Pro Wrestling. That's a possibility.
Yep.
Or a G1 final.
Yep.
Those are possibilities. He also said separately, Dragon Lee has really improved throughout the tournament and how he has carried himself as champion. I saw him grow in his engagement with the fans at the event and justified getting the title at MSG. Hopefully he'll hang around more, but this might be restricted due to a CMLL schedule. It wasn't really a question, but I think that he brings up a good point in that Dragon Lee might be leaving because he is a CMLL contracted wrestler, and how long do we expect him to hold the title? I think whoever wins this tournament is going to be the guy to take the belt off of him. But you got to wonder, he's been talking for so long about Hiromu, and now Hiromu might be coming back. What does this all mean?
Is there a major July show?
Yeah, I believe they just announced the anniversary show dates are coming up soon.
Huh.
I could be wrong about that, but I believe I read that.
Because I remember, like, the show where he got hurt last year was the July show, and it happened to be in America. It was a G1 special.
You mean for New Japan?
For New Japan.
Oh, I thought you meant for CMLL. Well, that was the Cow Palace show, so I don't know.
If there's been anything, because I'm trying to think of all the places that he could drop the belt.
There's G1 in Dallas, the first night of the G1, which is probably going to be a major show, just because it's in America. But I don't know. But like, Dragon Lee probably can't stay in New Japan for too much longer. The fact that he is an ROH guy, he is a CMLL guy, and he's been loaned to New Japan. He's not officially like a long-term New Japan, talent. He's been here almost all year. Mm-hmm. So those are great points. But we'll have to see what this Hiromu stuff means. But our final predictions: I'm going with Shingo. You're going with Shingo. That's gonna do it for our Best of the Super Junior final review. Actually, we had a couple questions. Let's get through those real quick. Eater_of_bread said, what has been your favorite Best Super Junior match? And what is your most anticipated match from the two big upcoming events?
I think I'm going to lean towards Sho and Shingo. No. Ospreay and Bandito. I'm a chicken out. I'm a fan of the high flying wrestling and just
that match is incredible.
Yeah,
that match is incredible.
Yeah.
I think that would be my answer, except for me, I do think Sho and Shingo is my favorite match of the tournament. I do anticipate watching both of those back to back. They're both junior match of the year candidates at this point in the calendar year. But you can't go wrong with either of those two matches.
I think you're talking about those.
I think that they're going to have a real tough time. I think me and Jeremy are probably going to have a long discussion about what match of the month is for the month of May when it comes to those two matches. Because I know he likes Bandito and Ospreay. I think he gave 5 stars. So.
Yeah.
We had what's your most anticipated match from the two big upcoming events?
Shingo and Will.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Shingo and Will, and I know we haven't seen Juice and Jon Moxley, and that's a whole thing in itself. But Shingo and Will is like, this is like what you watch pro wrestling for, because there's like, wow, either of these guys can win. You're fans of both of them. No one sucks, and it's like, I think something special is on the table. And sometimes you can see like a match of the year will sneak up on you. Sometimes you see it coming at you a million miles away, and this one has been staring at us all tournament, and it's finally here.
I agree. You said it the best you could say it. I completely agree with that. We had another question from Mookie1515. How possible do you think the surprise return of Hiromu at the Best of the Super Junior Finals will lead to a fatal 3-way for the junior belt at Dominion? Is that possible?
It's a possibility. I wouldn't waste his return to 3-way though.
I wouldn't do that either.
Just because of like we saw like how unnecessary 3-ways can like change the feeling on matches, and I think when Hiromu comes back, I want the focus on Hiromu. I don't want another guy in the way, and it has to be Dragon Lee that he comes back against. I don't need.
It feels like Dragon Lee's the guy he has to come back against, but if you were gonna do someone else, I feel like Shingo is the next best alternative. Mm-hmm. So that's like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then final question before we move on to Dominion. From Reddit user, why did you do that, bro? Is it just me, or is the Best of the Super Junior final more exciting than Dominion this year? We have seen Naito Ibushi 3 times in the last year, so we know what to expect there. Ishii and Taichi. He didn't even put a comment about that. He just said Ishii and Taichi. And then he said,
"Hey, never disrespect the greatness of Tomohiro Ishii and underestimate what he can get out of an opponent."
And the most likely junior title match, Dragon Lee against Shingo, just happened recently too. Whereas Jericho Okada will be great, most likely, but not as good as previous main events. However, I feel Moxley Juice is super exciting and unpredictable. Ospreay Shingo will probably be a match of the year candidate. And Jay Tanahashi always have good to great matches, and they do something different every time. Don't get me wrong, Dominion will be great as always. However, Ryogoku feels like it can bring something different and unique compared to previous year's Best Super Junior Finals. We can all agree that the best shows will be fire at least.
I can appreciate his take there, and I can agree with that. Like, because if you're thinking about like once you get past the novelty of Chris Jericho fighting Okada, which is like mind blowing in itself, right?
Yeah,
I'm not mind blown with Taichi being Ishii's opponent. I
am if Ishii takes the belt off.
Yeah, you're right. If he just beats the holy hell out of that geek, I'd be fine. He makes another point with Naito and Ibushi. Those matches are always great, though. So never underestimate that. But I will see his point. Just when you're talking about excitement and buzz, like, all right, you got White and Tanahashi. That's a rematch from earlier this year that was well received. Of course, you got Jon Moxley, and the buzz around him is palpable. And the Super Junior match, you just heard how I felt about that. So I think he frames it very well, and I think this is something that not a lot of people are thinking about, because you hear Dominion and it's just like, oh, it's Dominion. It's like, it's unfuckwittable.
I think part of it is the fact that we don't have a full Dominion card announced yet.
Right.
And that's part of it, and there's been so much anticipation from the Best Super Juniors tournament leading into the finals. And I feel like maybe, hypothetically, we don't know yet, that maybe once this show is over and they announce the Dominion card,
we're going to be blown away.
Then people might be blown away. And we might not be, but then it might change the narrative. But I could see exactly what he's saying. And right now, I'm not putting my eyes past this finals. Once we get through this finals...
This is really annoying, though, because it's June 3rd, right? And Dominion's on the 9th.
Yeah.
this is annoying. Like,
it's weird because last year when we did this review, we were reviewing Best Super Juniors. We had a whole week before Dominion came up, and then we were able to like do a preview and a review. And now it's like we got 3 matches on the docket.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fix this shit.
So let's talk about Dominion. We got 3 matches. We're gonna start off with the Never title match. Tomohiro Ishii, the Stone Pitbull, challenging the Lord Taichi.
So, Tomohiro Ishii is main eventing the Tokyo Dome this year, right? So,
why are you still on this?
on what? The truth? What needs to happen?
Oh my god.
The Tomohiro Ishii defense squad speaking up here. So, in order for Tomohiro Ishii to get to the Wrestle Kingdom main event, he needs to start winning. And I don't care what belt it is. He's going to clean up with all the belts. He's going to unify the Never belt with the IWGP title in the second night of the Tokyo Dome. So he's going to whoop Taichi. He's going to break the mic stand over his back. He's going to leave with Mio Abe. He is going to look into the crowd and say, I am the man. I am the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, the best body wrestler in the business today. I don't care who you give me. You cannot stop me from getting 4 stars at least.
Well, sir, some of the things you said for sure won't happen, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment, but that's kind of hilarious. The funny thing is that you're on this kick about Ishii headlining Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm on this kick about Ishii having this junior run, which he needs to do. I liked one thing that happened during the match between Shingo and Ishimori, where it was so evident the size differential between the two of them. And Kevin Kelly kind of covered up here. He said at the beginning of this tournament, they weighed everybody and they had to be under the 100 kilogram limit. Once they qualified for the tournament, all bets are off. And he basically said like they're allowed to put the weight back on, like in a UFC or a boxing fight.
That's hilarious.
But it's like, wait, they can do it for the whole tournament? Like that's crazy sounding. But when he said that, I thought to myself, do you think Ishii could get under 100 kilograms for this tournament? I feel like he could. That's why I love the Shingo run, because the Shingo run is exactly how I would have booked the Ishii run if he was ever in the junior division again, which he needs to be. But one reason what you said that Miho Abe would be leaving with Ishii, that will actually not be happening because she was unfortunately injured recently and she will not be at Dominion alongside Taichi, so that will not be happening.
Damn.
Yes.
Best wishes, Mio
Best wishes.
Abe.
Get better. Also, interesting. So in the build to this match, on the June 3rd card, there was a tag match that Ishii and Taichi were involved in. Post match, Taichi attacked Ishii and beat him down, and used the mic stand. So building heat for this match. So.
All that man got is a death wish. That's all he got.
We did see earlier this year when these two guys wrestled during the New Japan Cup, and it actually was an over 4-star match. It might have been Taichi's best match. It was the best match he had since the Will Ospreay match, and I liked it better than the Will Ospreay match. So
you know how I knew it was 4 stars?
How?
Tomohiro Ishii was in it.
So I actually
that man's the 4-star savior. 4-star and above savior.
One thing that has kind of happened though, during this Best of the Super Juniors tour, they haven't really done a great job building a lot of these undercard matches or even the main event matches for Dominion. So it's like they were building this throughout the Road 2 shows during the previous tour for Dantaku, but now all throughout Best Super Juniors, we haven't seen too much interaction between Ishii and Taichi. Now we're getting it again. So it's kind of like the hype for it is a little bit down, whereas it could have been higher had there been more interactions for them on the tour. I kind of get why. But with that being said, I am excited for this match because I think that Tomohiro Ishii is going to be never champion again.
And we already know what that means. Mo bangers.
He's about to be the Karl Gotch world champion.
Yes.
The strong style heavyweight champion of the world.
The never try me champion. Never try Tomohiro Ishii.
The ain't never scared
yes.
world heavyweight championship.
The never run up or else you'll get done up heavyweight champion of the world.
Oh, when Ishii wins.
The you never want smoke with Tomohiro Ishii championship.
You gotta do an entire rant.
Yes.
When he wins the never belt.
Oh my gosh.
But at the same time, as good as Taichi has progressed as a wrestler in the past few years, there's always that vague possibility that he Taichi ups the match entirely and it doesn't end up being what we expected it to be. So, what are your expectations? Are you excited for this match? What do you think is going to happen?
I think we're going to see a new champion, and I don't think Taichi is going to suck at Dominion.
No.
So
hopefully.
I think
we have seen a more vicious offense from Taichi. He's been using a lot of quad kicks and quad finishers.
And he's talked a lot of shit to this guy. Like he walked up on there was that time where Ishii was sitting backstage, and then Taichi walked up, and then Ishii was kind of looking at him in disbelief, like, "Why are you trying to try me right now?" And fine, I'll take your belt.
There is the possibility that he will try to use Suzuki-gun shenanigans and retain the belt here. But I am hoping and praying for... It's a big card. We usually, with Dominion, we see a lot of title changes. It is the halfway point for the year before the G1. I would love to see Ishii grab that Never belt and go into the G1 as the Never champion. So
set up a couple matches.
Yes. So I am hoping for Ishii to win the belt here. I'm expecting this to be a pretty hard, like a surprisingly hard-hitting match and be another feather in the cap for both guys. Yep. So we will move on. So in the semi-main event of the night, we have Kota Ibushi, the Golden Star, taking on ungovernable Tetsuya Naito.
Now, these guys have faced each other a couple times this year. Every time they get together, it is a war to dump the other on the back of their heads or necks, and I love it. It's these guys, like, I always loved the Naito and Kenny matches, so the Naito and Ibushi matches are like their cousins, essentially. In now, Naito, everyone's trying to map out his year and figure it out where it's going. People were perplexed when it was like, oh my god, he's challenging for the IC title again now.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be a narrative that's been continuing for the past couple of years. We keep wondering about this.
Yeah, it's like, just embrace it, Naito fans. Embrace the white title. God. Embrace, that. And, it'll be okay, man. I promise. Well, don't slit your wrists.
Well, we do know that Naito talked earlier this year about his quest to be both the black champion and the white champion. He's black and white, like Michael Jackson.
San Antonio Spurs jerseys.
Yes.
Piano keys.
Yes. But that's his quest.
Panda bears.
We know the story with him where he wanted to, basically rectify all the past, issues and ills that came along with the IC belt. And then when he won that belt, he beat Chris Jericho for it. It was kind of like the white belt came back to him, basically, and he talked about that. But then when he dropped the belt to Kota Ibushi earlier this year at Madison Square Garden, we kind of thought like they were moving him out of that and kind of preparing him for a potential G1 where, a lot of people think Naito's going to win the G1. So it is interesting here. We've seen these guys have 3 matches in the recent past. They wrestled last year during the G1. Kota Ibushi won that match. They wrestled again at the New Japan Cup. Kota Ibushi won that match. Then they wrestled at Madison Square Garden with the title on the line, and Kota Ibushi won that match. Each one of these matches were rated above 4.5 stars by most people. I preferred myself the match that they had during the New Japan Cup. That was our match of the month. It was actually my match of the tournament, but they just keep delivering. So from an in-ring standpoint, I'm excited to see this again. But from a story standpoint, I don't know what this means.
Yeah, I think this is like one example where Gato might not be as sharp as we think he is at times, and it's like, they're booking for the sake of the card and needing to fill a building rather than in service of the story.
Or even the fact that it's like you have main level guys, many of the main level guys are tied up. Mm-hmm. What do we do with these 2 main level guys? Because we want to treat them like a big deal. Do you give them like a Taichi? No, you don't do that.
You know what this feels like? This feels like oddly like the Tanahashi and Naito feud, like where these 2 main guys are like off on their own island doing their thing the whole year.
Yeah.
While Okada's being the champion, Jay White, all those guys are on that side.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. But I will give some credit to Gato, and I'm going to assume he knows what he's doing here.
Right.
Obviously there is that contingency of fans who are, staunch Naito supporters, and they want to see him get his moment in the sun and, hold the IWGP title and be, the top guy, even if it's for a brief period or for a prolonged period, whatever it may be. But at the same time, Ibushi just signed a lifetime contract at the beginning of the year with this company, and they've been pushing him. Excuse me. So you got to wonder, where are we going from here? Are we about to see Tetsuya Naito take a 4th consecutive loss to Ibushi?
There's no way.
And at the same time, is that a loss? Because it's like, what's the bigger loss? Him losing to Ibushi again,
right,
and being free of the title, or beating Ibushi and being saddled with the belt? He's like in a no-win situation.
Yes, it's like, it's what do you want, man? It's like you have to walk through the fire to get to it, and walking through the fire would be him losing again, I feel like. And putting that belt on him is a Band-Aid, essentially. And so many people want Naito to get his, his just due and his day in the sun, but, like, I don't know what New Japan's goals are right now, because it feels like they have so many guys that they're ready to start giving the top spots to. Like,
right.
Like Will Ospreay is coming. Like, Jay White's coming. Like,
Shingo's coming.
Ibushi's coming. So it's like, I don't know, Naito. It's almost like a now or never situation. And it's like, if they didn't crown Naito, I don't know if it's like the worst thing possible.
I think it is, because I think there's so much money on the table. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. I think that the only way that whole decision not to have him go over Okada, which we know from a business standpoint was a huge success, it made a lot of sense, but from a story standpoint,
you have to eventually pay it.
You got to pay it off. Mm-hmm. And so they got to pay it off at some point. Now, I know that this isn't completely contingent on this one decision. They got a lot of time between now and, say, Wrestle Kingdom to do whatever they got to do to get them to where they need them to be. But at the same time, it's like, it does feel like a 4th loss to Ibushi really cools him off. At the same time, that might set up a future big match for them down the road. Like, after this, you got to imagine that they're going to be done with each other for a while. I got to imagine they're not going to be in the same G1 block. If they are, that's probably a big mistake, because we don't need 4 matches from these guys.
Right.
At least not in this company. The way that this company books, that would be a mistake. In my opinion, I got to tell you, I think Naito's got to win here.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, because, out of these two, I like Ibushi more, and maybe just frees Kota Ibushi up for something.
It might free... Yeah. I mean, well, let's talk about Kota Ibushi for a moment. So we talked about the Double or Nothing pay-per-view that just happened, and there was some press that was out there about Kenny Omega during the press conference, and he was asked about Kota Ibushi, which, by the way, I don't know if we covered this on the show in previous weeks, but quietly, Kenny Omega's profile was removed off the NJPW 1972 website, which, happened just around the time that Double or Nothing took place. But during the press conference, Kenny Omega was asked about Kota Ibushi, and he gave a response which has gotten a lot of attention online because of the emotional nature of it. And you kind of saw this video.
Yeah, so like it was like a Japanese fan that asked Kenny essentially like about Kota Ibushi being AEW, and he kind of alluded to him not asking Ibushi to come to AEW because he knew if he asked him, he would come, and it was always Ibushi's dream to win the IWGP title and be the man in Japan, and Kenny didn't want to take that from him. It was kind of odd how he phrased it, and he started like kind of tearing up and all that, and I think he's working a storyline.
Yeah, that might be a storyline.
And eventually, this leads to Kenny come back to New Japan to fight him at some point.
My thinking is that that is on the table, a potential match between them at Wrestle Kingdom this coming year.
Because they have 2 nights.
They've got 2 nights that could easily happen. We know that Kenny Omega has it in his contract where he can work with New Japan, and if we've seen anything from Moxley and Jericho, this is a very real possibility. Another thing, though, to keep in mind, one reason why I kind of question the validity of what he's saying, I'm not saying Kenny's a liar, but I do remember when Kenny first joined AEW and he did that podcast on Wrestling Observer, and during that Wrestling Observer, he
made it sound like Ibushi was coming.
He said Ibushi was coming, and he made it sound like he didn't say it outright, but he made it sound like they had discussed it, like he had asked him to come. Now he's saying he never did. It almost sounds like when you're in a breakup and it didn't go the way you wanted to go, so you spin the
You start rationalizing.
You start spinning the story like he would have come if I'd asked him, but I knew that was his dream, so I didn't. So then now you sound, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it would have worked out had I wanted to, but I put him ahead of myself.
Right.
But maybe it didn't really happen that way.
Maybe not.
I don't know. That's what it kind of sounds like.
Can't trust these wrestlers.
But we do know that they're pushing Ibushi. He did sign the quote-unquote lifetime contract with New Japan, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, this Ibushi-Naito feud, from an in-ring standpoint, right now it's probably the feud of the year in New Japan as far as match quality goes, and we're getting a third. It's going to be stellar. It might even be the match of the show because it's hard for anybody to live up to the kind of match quality that these two guys put on night in and night out. And I think Naito's winning.
Yeah, it could happen.
Who do you think's winning?
Yeah, it's tough.
Because you're skirting.
Oh, man, because, like, it's like damned if you do and damned if you don't with Naito, so give him the belt back. Why not? Like, they've been beating this guy like a drum.
Do you think it makes sense for them to have Ibushi win again, and then it sets up sort of one of the famous New Japan narratives of the guy who can't overcome another guy? We've seen it many times in the past. You know?
Give me an example of that.
Will Ospreay can't beat Marty Scurll. Mm-hmm. That's like an example.
Well, he's beat Ibushi before, so
yeah, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So we got to forget that.
So
ever
we kind of
happened,
forgot
so.
it. Not that they make you forget it. Like they'll bring it up, but they'll also say, "It seems like this new Ibushi has his number." That's what Kevin Kelly will say.
That's how they keep the matches fresh.
Yeah. And in a way, it is a new Ibushi. It's
Yeah.
not the same guy.
He's signed.
He's signed.
Yeah. I'll take Naito to win the title and go into the G1, and maybe he keeps his dream alive of being a double champion.
Nice. So then,
got to give those Naito fans some hope.
So let's talk about the main event here. So, one thing I wanted to mention for Dominion, we do have confirmation that Don Cocaine Callis is going to be calling the show. So we will be getting the best duo in all of commentating, Don Callis and Kevin Kelly.
I love it. I only am sad that Kenny will not be on the card for Don to give the true Don Callis experience.
We're in such a weird place now because, like, Don has, like, always put over Kenny, but now Kenny's over in AEW. But Don's commentating in New Japan, but then he's also, like, one of the, like, main
dudes
guys
in
Impact. And these guys are all kind of competing with each other. It's such a weird time in pro wrestling. And, like, Impact's not working with AEW, and they're not working with New Japan, and vice versa. None of these three companies are working together. So but
something fishy going on.
But Don Callis did get a pinfall victory over Kenny Omega.
Hey man, I don't recognize none of that,
bro. Kenny's. Well, let's talk about it. So Kenny's
having a rough year.
He's having a rough year.
I'm having rough times here,
sir. He lost
to
Don Callis, and that's going to lead us into this match because in the main event of Double or Nothing, in the rematch, Omega Alpha versus Omega 2, he lost in the main event of the first ever AEW show. He was put down for the 1-2-3 to the Judas Effect elbow, the new finisher of one Chris Jericho.
All I know is Okada better watch out because like. Jericho's doing this move they don't even teach in martial arts anymore, Josh. This move should be outlawed. It should be banned. I don't know if Omega's been concussion tested. We haven't heard from him since. I'm worried.
We know he got his nose broken. We know that.
Yes.
I was actually at the gym the other day. I was working my strikes on the heavy bag, and I decided to throw a couple Judas Effect elbows. I don't know if it was as effective as Jericho's. I don't know if I've mastered it.
Yeah, I don't know if you had to quick like master the learning curve as quickly as Jericho did.
I think I've mastered my chops though. I've been hitting the heavy bag with my chops.
You gotta always do the chops. And always practice your chops.
I do all of them. Mongolian chop. I do the straight judo chop. I do knife edge chop. All of it.
Yeah, man. Overhand chop.
I've been working my chops in the gym.
Yeah, man. You gotta.
People have been looking at me. I think it's with admiration. I'm not sure.
I'm telling you, man. Like it's something about seeing somebody turn sideways in front of the heavy bag, cock their fist or their hand all the way across their body the wrong way, and then just throw it essentially, turn it over and slap it as hard as you can. That's kind of an uncommon motion. People are normally in like a fighting stance with the dukes up.
I was in a fighting stance. I've been channeling my inner Walter, my inner Ronnie Garvin, my inner Suzuki.
Yeah.
But so Jericho. Now you know what? I can't even quite remember when was it announced that Jericho was going to be facing Okada? When did that happen? Was that at the end of Dontaku?
Yeah, it was at the end of Dontaku after he beat Sonata. They played the video, and Jericho's painting up and everything.
They played one video. We haven't seen Okada since that time. We haven't seen Jericho since that time, except in the universe of AEW. The Jericho that showed up at Double or Nothing, I thought maybe it might end up being New Japan Chris Jericho. It wasn't. We got a different Chris Jericho than the kind of Chris Jericho that's coming here. And there's a lot of speculation about the outcome of the match with him and Kenny and the politics and the fact that he had this just days later, just, a little over a week later, this upcoming IWGP title match with Okada and how that would play in. And he did end up, for whatever reason, picking up the win over Kenny Omega. Clean 1, 2, 3. Now he's coming in with all this momentum, but we haven't seen him or Okada. I do have a question. Do you think that there's a chance that Okada will be involved in any match on the Best of Super Junior Finals? And do you think that because it's a few days before, we might see Jericho show up?
Yes. Jericho's not going to go into a match cold without doing any type of angle. He's not going, either a video will come out or there will be some type of attack that happens after like a multi-man match or something, and we'll get some type of wild brawl or something. I would count on that.
I would too. I'm expecting it.
Yeah, and
do you think he's going to do something unique that we're not expecting because everyone's expecting it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he catches him while he's making his entrance. Maybe he's like, I don't know, man. I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I wonder what will happen here, and I think there is a better than 0% chance that he wins. Mm-hmm. There just might not be much more than that, but I'm not willing to rule it out completely. Like it's just some insane thing.
Well, there was a lot of controversy a few weeks ago when this match was announced about the fact that a part-timer was getting an undeserved shot, and I think you listened to the episode where I dealt with that pretty extensively.
Swiftly. And educating fools who refuse to look at what situations actually are rather than blindly comparing them because their favorite company has burned goodwill in so many places that they can't do things of the same sort. So.
What are you talking about? They're bringing back Goldberg. Also, by the way, it's going to be real tough for them to compare that major show to Double or Nothing, to Best Super Junior Finals, to Dominion. It's
going to be a rough couple
weeks. But anyways, so we got Okada Jericho. This is a match that we wanted to see for a long time. We don't have a strong story going into it, but the name value is there, and they've got a few days now, especially with them probably all being in Japan at this point in time, to build something here. What are your expectations for this match?
I think this is going to be great because I've learned never to bet against Chris Jericho, no matter what age he is, because he's always learning and he's always keeping his mind sharp. Maybe not the body so much, but
I think he was in pretty good shape for the last match.
Yeah.
As good as he, at his age, he can be.
Yeah, he's probably as good as he can be right now. And, he's got a new set of hair and he's...
I've been growing my hair out too, like Jericho.
Yeah, so and I cut mine recently. So I expect Okada to be like, "Yo, man, what kind of match you want to do?" And Okada just pulls from his mental Rolodex, like, all right, what we got to do? I'll just make it great. And I think we're looking at like it's going to be a very enjoyable match. We're going to see Okada have to fight and get dirty.
Yes.
And have we seen that? When Suzuki, is that the last time he had to really fight? Shibata? Yeah. And I don't know if it's going to be like that. Like, Jericho's not coming to kick ass like that, but he's definitely coming to brawl and muck it up. Like, he beat Kenny up.
Yeah, I was really intrigued by that match because we were kind of waiting for the Jericho rules to get instituted during that match, kind of like the Brock Lesnar rules or what have you, where every match he has ends up being no DQ. And that could even still happen here. They got time to do that. And New Japan, they got a winning formula with Chris Jericho. They kind of know, like, we're not going to have this guy go out and have a straight one-on-one match, but it's the IWGP title. It's the most prestigious championship in all wrestling. They might just have a straight one-on-one match. I thought it was interesting that him and Kenny ended up, even though they ended up bringing in some hardcore elements and like the table spots and the outside stuff, they did have a straight one-on-one match. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe this is like preparation for the Okada match that's upcoming. I do wonder, though, with the type of... We know that Okada can wrestle almost any style and have incredible matches, but I have wondered, can he get that kind of great performance that he's used to having out of Jericho? I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely possible, and Jericho has done nothing but over-deliver every time he's in New Japan. But when you think about those incredible sequences that Okada has, can Jericho keep up with him on that level to do that sort of stuff still?
So Jericho usually, he would respond to that saying he doesn't have to keep up with anyone because he's going to wrestle at his speed and pace and everything.
Yeah.
So Jericho has always had a great mind for sequencing, especially like laying out matches. And who closes a match better than Okada? So I'm really not worried. I think this is going to be incredible,
I agree.
Especially in the last 5 minutes.
I agree. I mean, we've talked extensively about how this match might be match of the year, this match might be match of the month, this match might be match of the night, all that sort of stuff. But we can't discount the fact that we've got the best wrestler in the world in Okada going up against one of the most creative and smart wrestlers in the world in Jericho. And it's a dream match in a huge card, in a huge, setting, being, where are they wrestling at?
Osaka Joe
Hall. Why do I forget stuff? But the fact of the matter is, it's Okada. It's Jericho. This could be a 5-star match easily. And I am so intrigued.
It's
now,
like you think Naito, like the way Jericho's delivered in Japan, you think Okada wants to like let
Naito outdo him?
Yeah, and let Kenny outdo him?
No. Now I got to tell you, and I'm calling it right now. This is something that might happen. My only concern is, like, what would it mean for the match? Okada gets wrist control. He goes for the Rainmaker.
Judas effect.
He spins him out, and as he's about to hit the Rainmaker, Jericho turns it into a Judas effect, lands that elbow right on the jaw of Okada.
I think the arena and everyone watching it will go silent if that happens because they saw what it did to Kenny.
The only thing that can happen is either Okada has to fall out of the ring.
Yep.
Okada's got to be within like reach of the ropes.
Or Jericho collapse too.
Has to collapse and be unable to pin him because from the way that they established that move with Kenny, there's no way anyone, no matter who it is kicking out of that move right now. Even if it's Okada. There's no way he hits it clean and doesn't pin Okada. There's that little caveat, like, if he hits it, he might win.
Right. And that's why I'm putting it at a better than 0% chance of Chris Jericho being the IWGP champion.
I don't think Jericho will win. I don't think he should win. There could be an argument to be made that maybe he's right now technically the lineal AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and maybe this is champion versus champion.
The lineal championships.
But
I love nothing more than those.
But I think this match is going to be fantastic, and I think what we're going to see at the end of it, after several Rainmakers, we're going to see a third or a fourth Rainmaker, and Jericho will be pinned 1, 2, 3. Okada retains. Where we go from there, it's to the G1. What, if anything, if there's any surprises or anything post-match, I don't know. But I am so excited for this match, and yes, it's going to be great.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that is going to do it. Any final thoughts on Dominion?
I think this is going to be a show like last year we probably saw like Dominion being the greatest card ever in the history of the world.
One of them, yeah.
And I don't think this is going to be that, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't always have to be the greatest thing you saw, but I think you got a unique match in Okada and Jericho. The we know what to expect with Naito and Ibushi. Ishii can get belted up again. Then we still got the rest of the card for Gato to fill in, which, we still got to find homes for, Tanahashi, Jay White, Ospreay, Shingo, and Hiromu maybe. So maybe this is the return of Hiromu Takahashi. So I expect Dominion to be a great show as normal.
Absolutely. The last thought I have is I can't wait to see what the rest of the card is. And that actually leads us into our last question related to Dominion. Muzza_44 asked, what other matches could we expect at Dominion?
Got any man?
I don't have a single thought. The only thing I can think of is we know there's going to be a junior title match. Yeah. So there's that. But other than that, it's
could Moxley be on the card?
Could Moxley be on the card because he's already in Japan and he was on the show previous to it? And maybe they need to, if he does win the title, maybe they need to set up a future match. So maybe something happens in a multi-man match with him. Or what if he loses but we're still going to have a chase or something of that nature. So we need to have, further a program between him and Juice. That's a possibility.
Right.
Other than that, possibly a junior tag title match with Roppongi 3K is a possibility.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any major because all the main they
gotta figure out something. Maybe Evil and Sonata do something.
Zack Sabre, we don't really know what he's doing. We don't know what Suzuki's doing. So there are a couple of big stars out there that we don't know. But yeah, I can't think of any other matches that we could see at Dominion off the top of my head. But I am excited for the rest of the card. Hopefully, we see something that. You also got to wonder what the rest of LIJ guys doing. What's Sonata doing? What's Evil doing? We don't know.
Yeah.
We got a couple random questions that we're going to ask, just 3 of them just before we go to the news and close out the show. So Rambones_SlamPig asked, do you think that El Phantasmo and Robbie Eagles are going to become challengers for the junior tag titles?
I would count on that.
I think that's a great idea, and I think it's something they should do, especially given the dearth of competition that they've had in that division, and plus the planting of the seeds of kind of a little bit of issues between those two guys.
And also we don't probably need either of them in the title picture desperately right now, so the junior tag division is a nice place to stash them in the meantime.
Gotcha. And actually I thought it was 3 questions, but it's just 2. We got one last question from Zach Saba. Time. I'm going to steer away from the Best of the Super Juniors for a hot second here. Been watching some old stuff. Has Josh, and I'll include you in this, and Rich, have you watched The Great Muta versus Antonio Inoki? If not, I recommend it. It was a very fun from the entrance to the end. It's on NJPW World.
I have not.
I have. So this match was part of Antonio Inoki's retirement tour. I forget what he called that tour. But, it was the tour that he went on from, 1990 to 1998.
The Slap World Tour?
Yeah, where he just literally, I think in that whole time, the only guy that beat him was, Tenryu.
That's hilarious. I'm going to beat everybody's ass and then retire.
And actually, I think Tenryu beat him before he went on the official retirement.
Yeah.
But this match was real interesting. It is a fun watch. If you're looking for something from that period of Inoki's career, I would actually... Over this match, I would recommend the match with Vader from 1996, January 4th in the Tokyo Dome, which you actually did see that match.
You know what match I don't recommend?
What?
Antonio Inoki versus Sting.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we also watched that match. Don't watch that match.
Don't watch that.
But, I watched this match with Muta. Spoiler alert, Inoki wins, which I think this match happened in, 93. There's no reason that Inoki should have been going over the Great Muta in maybe it was 95. I don't remember, but he shouldn't have been beating Great Muta. I mean, if it was Keiji Muto, then maybe he should have won. But this would be Triple H beating the Demon Finn Balor right now.
Which they would probably do.
Which they would do.
Yeah.
So there's some comparisons there, but it is a fun match, and it was a big time money draw, and it was a big deal when it happened. And yes, I've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. Check it out. You should definitely go out of your way to watch it.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to close with the news here. So since I'm doing the news, we got some good coverage here. And actually, that's not a shot at Jeremy. I just been slacking. Jeremy's been doing all the right stuff, and I've been sucking. So, in news outside of New Japan, coming up on August 9th in Toronto, we have the announced Summer Super Card, which will be a card featuring NWA, CMLL, Ring of Honor, Rev Pro, and New Japan Pro Wrestling talent. The first 2 announced matches. One, Nick Aldis will be defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on this card, as well as there's going to be a CMLL Trios match with CMLL Trios rules featuring talent from all 5 companies.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's going to be something cool and fun. Also, in news related to CMLL, they have announced that they will start having pay-per-view style super cards once a month. So like every 4 weeks. They had their first one this past Friday. It was called El Juicio Final. They actually had 2 hair versus hair matches and a career versus career match. And from what I hear, the card was really good. So if you haven't seen it,
we all need to watch more CMLL.
Yeah.
It just falls to the wayside sometimes.
Go out of your way, check that out.
But seeing as how I have like all this free time on Monday and Tuesday nights, maybe I'll make that CMLL night.
Rev Pro has announced a card on June 29th called Ungovernable. This card is actually going to feature LIJ. Obviously, it's called Ungovernable. But also, Katsuyori Shibata will be making a special appearance. So if you're in the UK, you might want to check that out.
Hear those piano keys, nice and soft.
Yes.
Setting the mood, lighting a candle, turn the lights off.
Yeah. One thing we forgot to mention, and it feels terrible to say that we forgot to mention this, but we didn't mention this on the show, and I wanted to bring it up. So on May 11th, the news came out that Silver King passed away during a match in the ring. I wanted to make mention this because Silver King obviously was a legend of this sport and also had a very, very long and prosperous history with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Whether he was one of the Black Tiger 3. He also wrestled, extensively throughout the years in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and so our condolences go out to his family.
No doubt.
And also remembering Owen Hart. So Owen Hart, obviously the anniversary of his death.
20 years.
20 years, it just passed. There was an incredible podcast on Post Wrestling detailing the final days of his life. It was the most unique podcast I've ever listened to. I'm a big fan of true crime podcasts and serialized podcasts, and this I believe it's John Pollock who did it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like a serialized wrestling podcast with interviews from people that were there and involved with the final day of Owen's life. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. Also on Talk is Jericho, he did a tribute show with Dave Meltzer that was also very, very good.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
And May 27th, which just passed this past week, was the anniversary of Owen Hart winning the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title in 1988, 31 years ago. If you're not familiar with Owen's run in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you should watch some of the stuff. His matches with Shiro Koshinaka, his matches with Takada, his matches with the really famous matches are the ones with Liger, and if you've never seen them, you got to check that stuff out. Owen Hart has a lot of stuff out there from Calgary, from Stampede, from World of Sport, from New Japan that you guys probably, if you're newer fans, you're not probably as aware of. But it's not, his whole career isn't just the stuff he did in WWE. He has a lot of amazing stuff out there, and some of his best work happened right here in New Japan. Some of it's on New Japan World, so you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, there's a Black Tiger Owen Hart match.
It's him and Eddie.
Yeah.
That
which
match
is
great.
like you think about it, it's like, hold on, Eddie Guerrero from WCW and Owen Hart from the World Wrestling Federation, they were fighting? Oh, okay.
Liger is on his retirement tour. Speaking of Liger, he, as well as all 3 members of Roppongi 3K, will be in South Carolina in July, on July the 7th, wrestling for PWX. So if you don't have tickets to that, you might want to check it out. If you're in that area, that sounds like a pretty cool thing. Post Wrestling is doing a new podcast called Cruel Summer, where they review the finals of every G1 Climax, starting from G1 Climax 1991. I listened to the first couple episodes. Really, really good stuff. So that's a cool podcast. I wish I had that idea and did it first, but I didn't. So if you get a chance, definitely check that out. Also, interesting news. So on August 31st, we already know that New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be running Royal Quest. The news also came out recently that they will be that AEW is going to be doing All Out, which will be the sequel to All In. They'll be doing it in Chicago from the Sears Center. I was there last year live. But on that same day, NXT TakeOver UK will also be running in the UK, the same day as Royal Quest. So all three of these shows will be running at the same time. We had some, our friends over at Super J-Cast had a tweet that they tweeted out earlier today. They said, and you could probably hear this on their show, which I'm sure will be dropping any day, maybe even tomorrow. They said, per our UK sources, WWE had a spy in one of the ticket agencies mandated by Copperbox NJPW were using for Royal Quest. They saw that New Japan had only sold 2,000 tickets, but they didn't realize that they had a second ticket agency and that the sale totals were over $5,000 or 5,000 tickets sold for the event. WWE thought sales were bad, saw money on the table, didn't do the research on competing events, for example, the rugby match, and rushed in circa March to put their show on around the same time. Now WWE are facing a situation with twice as many wrestling fans as they thought already committed to going to Royal Quest, hugely inflated Cardiff hotels cost due to the Wales versus Ireland World Cup warm-up rugby game, and that being priced at least €100 per night.
If this is true, WWE takes another ginormous, big, fat L. And they have no one to blame but themselves, if this is the case, for not doing their due diligence, and B, just like, yo, man, they're in such a rush to try to control the UK, and it's such a battleground that they wanted to compete, and it sounds like they got bit in the ass.
Now, some of it I do got a question because they're running in Cardiff, Wales, and Royal Quest is running in London, and I don't think those are exactly the same area.
We're gonna have to get Rick and Clive on the line, or
I know they're not the same.
Murray.
I know they're not the same area, but my question about this is like, it is a bad situation because we know that NXT has had trouble drawing in the UK. Now, I think they do pretty well for their takeover shows, but we've heard reports about, everything. I mean, we covered it extensively last year, everything that was happening with the UK and the new contracts and the new rules and everything like that. And the fact that they weren't drawing fans to watch these UK guys in their promotion because they were charging like triple what, say, Progress or ICW were charging to have the same talent on their cards, and which might have been some of the reason why they wanted to limit the availability of those guys being on those shows. Because why would you go watch them at NXT UK have TV matches which are not as good when you could pay a third of the price and watch them in a promotion where they have longevity, history, and also creative freedom? So that's one thing to think about there. But now, not only that, you also have to consider the fact that now they're running on the same day as a show that's being widely successful in the UK. So they've limited the amount of interest and the amount of fans because even though the UK is a hot scene, it's all relative. There's only so many people over there that actually, wrestling, we saw what happened with ITV and with World of Sport. It didn't take off. And, even though a lot of these companies like Progress and Rep Pro are doing well, it's all relative. They're not having major league success the way that some other companies in, say, the US or Japan are. And WWE's trying to get a piece of that pie, but now they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot running on the same day as this show that's been announced and also had tickets sold for a long time.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I think they're just in such a rush to try to make sure no one else is getting a piece of that market that they may have just picked the wrong day. As simple as it sounds.
Yeah, and I did see that they that during the conference call that Triple H actually addressed the fact that they were running this show the same time as All Out and that it wasn't like a publicity. And actually, I kind of believe that because it is running earlier in the day, and it's not like it's going to draw away because it's two totally different markets.
Yeah.
But I did notice that nobody asked about Royal Quest, and he didn't address Royal Quest, which it seems very evident that this might have potentially been a ploy to run opposite and draw away from New Japan.
Yeah.
Where more people are focusing on the AEW side of the story, whereas I think it has more to do with New Japan than anything else.
And they've been at odds with New Japan for a couple years.
Especially now that it's this one market that they really want, that they've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into. And they don't, and all of a sudden New Japan comes in and is widely successful. They probably don't want
think about it. It's like Progress versus like Rev Pro. It's like they've each got like essentially a farm system laid down there.
So that's one thing to keep your eyes out. And again, shout out to Super J-Cast. We also, while we were on the air, we got very, very sad news. The sudden passing of Atsushi Aoki. If you're not familiar with Atsushi Aoki, he is a longtime veteran from Noah as well as All Japan. He actually is he was their current head trainer in the dojo for All Japan. He passed away, I suppose, earlier today in a biking incident. So our condolences go out to his family and his fans and friends. Very, very terrible stuff, and it apparently just happened. Other news outside of outside of New Japan, we have Ring of Honor news. So there was word that came out earlier, I believe this week, that Jonathan Gresham is actually working in Ring of Honor with no contract.
More ROH lunacy.
They better do something before this man gets a con check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He could easily end up.
Or he's working over here in New Japan.
They might just keep him.
So that's out there. Also, Best in the World is coming up later in the next month or so. Some matches that have been announced are that Matt Taven will be defending the ROH World Championship against Jeff Cobb. Shane Taylor will be defending the television title against Bandito. And there was an announced match of the Briscoe brothers taking on Roosh and Dragon Lee, which actually kind of sounds like a banger. There was also allusions to the idea that there might be another tag, because it's a 2-night event, that they might be building to a title match between the Briscoes and GOD. So it's not official, but it looks like that's the way that the TV's heading, basically. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But I wanted to talk about Ring of Honor because there was a fan controversy that came out earlier today. Rich, did you hear about this?
I did hear about this.
So what did you hear?
So there was a fan went on Twitter and he alleged that he was basically heckling a couple of the female performers in Ring of Honor, Mandy Leon and Velvet Sky, and I guess at one point Mandy Leon spit on him or something.
Apparently she spit on him, and apparently the report is that she facepalmed him as well.
Right, which is grounds for fighting in pretty much any culture. Don't try that shit with us.
Yeah.
But Velvet Sky was essentially calling this guy a virgin and all this other stuff, and I've never liked that whole thing. I hear a lot of fans do this to other fans, say oh, such and such, you're a virgin, for liking professional wrestling and stuff like that. It's come on, man. Fuck out of here.
Well, here's the thing. What it sounded like to me, aside from the spitting and the wrestlers getting physical with the audience, which should never happen under any circumstances, unless the audience member
is a plant,
did something wrong, or as a plant, or did something where they broke that wall or that barrier that came over the barrier, then it's free game.
Yeah.
But other than that, it sounded like this was a regular wrestling interaction. A wrestling fan heckling heels for being heels, bad guys being bad guys, and saying stuff to them. Now, there are sides to the story. I've heard speculations that this fan might have been more belligerent than he's alluding to.
Yeah.
He might have said more things that were more disrespectful than he's saying online.
He said, Velvet Sky has sex with Bully Ray.
He did. He admitted that.
Yeah.
But they're saying he might have said more things, have been more disruptive than this. And there were some reports that the reason that there was an incident is because he was going to be on television. They didn't want him to basically detract from the show, and that was an issue. We do see fans get removed from audiences all the time in WWE and things like that. You see it all the time where someone does something and all of a sudden the audience is all looking over to the other side and you don't know what's going on. So it's not like there's no precedent for that. However, the real problem with how this was handled, and before I move on, there are other fan reports saying that this guy was doing nothing of the sort and that his version of the account is exactly how it happened. I will say that friend of the show and Social Suplex member Chris Bryan says he actually knows this gentleman personally and says that he's a great guy and isn't lying.
He's vouching for that guy.
There was also correspondence that reported to Observer and was reported on Wrestling Observer Live where basically Bryan said that he wasn't there, he didn't see it, but that his correspondents were literally right by him and said that the fans' account of how it happened is exactly what happened, that he wasn't over the line. He didn't cross any barriers. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just heckling them, which it wasn't even heckling them. He's booing them just like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Well, basically security came, took this fan to the back. From what happened here is anybody's guess. We got two sides of the story. A fan says that he was taken into a room, not explained what was going to happen, and then left in a room where Bully Ray showed up and basically told him that he was being belligerent and disrespecting the women, and that he shouldn't say anything to the women that he wouldn't say to his mom. And, the fan basically said that he agreed with him because he was imposed by him and basically intimidated, and that...
Like, what else were you going to do in that situation?
And he didn't want to get kicked out after the third match of the card and was allowed to go back to a seat, and Bully Ray said, go back and be a fan.
So Bully Ray apparently thinks he's Sam Rothstein from Casino, and brought the dude in the back room to basically break his fingers,
apparently.
Essentially. So this could have gone horribly wrong.
Well, it already kind of is, basically.
This could have been a whole nother level. Like, who's to say the fan didn't have a gun or something? Or, like...
Well, I think you get waved down before you go into these shows, though.
Okay. I mean, I don't know
but
how
still,
big the building
you
was
never know.
or whatever.
Anything can happen.
Like, and it's like, oh, I feel threatened, and then and that could have been bad. And then the fact that you're leaving a wrestler alone with a fan in a room
with a wrestler,
and it was set up, and this was not a meet and greet. This was this was
a special kind of meet and greet.
This was like, oh, I'm gonna go, such and such says something bad about my girlfriend or my wife, whatever their relationship is, and I'm going to go intimidate this guy and let him know whatever. I think it's horseshit.
So the fan basically ended up tweeting after the show, and the tweets circulated. They've gotten a lot of publicity earlier today, where basically the fan said essentially what we just said. About an hour before we started recording this show, there was a response that came out from Bully Ray where his side of the story was that he was nothing but pleasant to the young man, and that he explained to him essentially that he was being a distraction to the fans and also causing a problem on the for the recording. But not just that, but that he alleged that some of the lewd and horrible things that he had said to the women were over the line and are not being reported, and that he did need to speak to this fan. And he said the only problem was if they had known how bad the things he said actually were, which came out later, they would have actually just ejected him to begin with, but they were trying to make good and allow him to still enjoy the show and treat him with respect. And that basically the way he was talking about women in 2019 probably isn't right, and that Bully Ray is saying he wasn't being a bully, he was being a man, essentially.
Yeah, so he dripped some of that toxic masculinity in there, saying, I'm being a man about this. It's like, no one asked you to be a man, bully. No one asked you to put a security shirt on. They already have security for the building. What are you doing in that situation?
Ring of Honor has responded to this, and they have said that they're launching an internal investigation. We've heard that sort of rhetoric in the past from different companies, but with them being tied to Sinclair Media, you got to assume that this sort of thing might be taken pretty seriously.
They're going to pay this fan to go away.
That's my prediction. Something's going to happen. Yeah. But it's a big deal what is happening right now. Now, here's my take on it. There are always two sides to the story. We've all been to indie shows. We've all seen shows where there's that one guy. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Yeah. Where they're over the line. I do think it's interesting, though, that there's so many people who are online who are saying the opposite. Mm-hmm. Who are saying that this guy was well with it. He was just being a fan, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. I think it is problematic that if the fan's account is right, how can you take a fan to the back and tell him you shouldn't be saying negative things to the heels when that's what their job is to get heat? Especially coming from Bully Ray, a guy who made his entire career off of literally enticing fans to come and try and fight him and saying some of the most lewd and vicious things about women and to women in his career. And I know it's a different time, but come on. But here's the big problem of it all. Even if the fan was wrong, even if the fan was doing whatever you allege that he was doing, under no circumstances should security take a fan into the back and leave them alone with an active pro wrestler, no matter what his role in the company is. Right. That should never, ever, ever happen. Ring of Honor, you guys have been taking L's all year long. All year. You guys keep making big mistakes. This is a PR nightmare. This is a big problem.
All it takes is for something to get momentum online, like it has, for it to be like, you know what? I don't fuck with Ring of Honor no more. And that's already happening with your product itself. And then you add in this side of it. It's like, this is messy.
There are two sides to each story. We don't know what really happened, but I'm telling you, under no circumstances should that fan be left alone in a room with Bully Ray. That should never happen.
Just kick his ass out.
And you, like, instead of, like, justifying what you did, you should just apologize. You should just apologize and
make no statement.
Or make no statement. Keep your mouth shut and let your PR team go to work and keep you safe, because you shouldn't even admit it happened. This is a big issue. Yeah. It's a big issue. Yeah. But we're gonna move on. So we got NJPW news. The free match of the week this week was Okada versus AJ from Dominion 2015. 5-star match. If you've never seen it, it's an incredible match. But not only that, it's one of AJ's best matches in his entire career, especially in New Japan. But it probably has what I would say is the greatest finishing sequence in any match that I have ever seen in my life. No finishing. This is one of the reasons why Okada gets his reputation for great finishing sequences. Now take that and combine AJ in his prime. Fire. You have to see this match. Dominion will actually be airing on Fight TV. For those of you that don't have NJPW World, who don't plan on getting a streaming service, you can watch this from the comfort of your own home on Fight TV, which is pretty cool. Also, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, and Lance Archer have been announced for the G1 opening night in Dallas, along with Tomohiro Ishii and Jeff Cobb. So we're getting more names announced for that card. It looks like it's going to be awesome. You got to wonder, is Jon Moxley going to show up on that card? Because if it does, it might help their ticket sales.
Yeah, I would be, if I was Harold May, I'd be cutting a check.
The Wrestle Kingdom website has launched, as well as the announcement of Wrestle Kingdom overseas tickets. If you're planning on going, the pre-sale launches July 8th. Through the 10th, and then the general sale tickets will be on sale July 12th. So
buy your tickets through New Japan. Do not go through Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, don't go through a fence like Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
The Southern Showdown meet and greet tickets are on sale for the Australia tours. So if you're going to be attending those tickets, and I know we got listeners in Australia, those tickets are on sale now. Earlier today, Sports Illustrated did a write-up. SportsIllustrated.com did a write-up on Michael Craven. I haven't read it yet, but they talk about the U.S. expansion, how Michael Craven will be the one leading that charge. I think it sounds pretty interesting. I'm going to definitely check it out. You should too. Also, Harold May was interviewed and asked questions about AEW and the possibility of a working relationship, given the fact that we're seeing Jericho and Jon Moxley on these shows coming up. He did comment on it, and he did talk about how the deal to bring Jon Moxley onto the show was cut before he even signed anything with AEW, and that at this present time they have no working relationship. He said, as of yet.
Yeah. The ground is being laid, and I'll leave it at that.
If Ring of Honor keeps fucking up like this, then it might really be laid.
Yeah.
Final bits of news, NJPW1972.com has 2 new special columns that you might want to check out. They have the social roundup, where they actually do something similar to what I'm doing right now, where they bring up all the social stories of the week, break news, give you upcoming details, things that are going on. That's pretty cool. They also are doing a new feature called This Week in NJPW History, where they detail various different events that took place over the course of their history on the same week. Many of you ask about NJPW history, how you can get more into it, how you can get more resources. This is a resource. NJPW is doing great things for the fans. Definitely check that out. And the last couple bits of news, if you've ever wanted to reign in Okada bucks, there is a new Okada buck shooter that you can buy on the NJPW website. It is 40 euros, which is probably a little over like $45 in US. But it's the same shooters that you saw the Young Bucks come out to, where they reigned the Young Bucks during their show at Double or Nothing. And so, yeah, if you want to get one of those are available now. And then finally, there was some very...
Do you think he sent a special pair to Lacey Evans ahead of time?
Oh, was it Lacey Evans that was doing that? Not the Young Bucks. It was Lacey Evans.
It was Lacey Evans.
I got that confused. My bad. Yeah, so what you saw Lacey Evans reigning the Bucks with, you can do that now, but you can get the Okada Bucks. And then Wrestling Observer Radio had some very interesting notes this past week about Yomiuri Shinbun, one of Japan's leading newspapers. They did a story on New Japan Pro Wrestling, talking about Bushiroad's amateur wrestling team and wrestling club that Yuji Nagata is the head coach of. Talking about Oleg Boltin, who is a 2020 Olympic hopeful from Kazakhstan, and how he's already committed to working in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the future, provided he has success in the 2020 Olympics. They also talked about New Japan's peak through 1998 and then it bottoming out, and the regrowth of their business after the MMA collapse in Japan. They also talked about New Japan's television audience, that it's 10% under the age of 20, 14% between 20 and 29, 26%, 36% from 40 to 49, and 13% over the age of 50. And that unlike WWE, where the median age of the television viewer is 54, New Japan's median viewer age is 39. And that even though WWE attracts more kids, of the New Japan fan base, 39% became fans over the last year. 17.
Breaking news.
Oh, we have breaking news?
We have breaking news, sir. The Best of Super Juniors card has just been released for the final, the whole show.
Okay, let's go over that just after this.
Yep, right after you finish. I'll load it up, make sure I got it.
That basically the television audience is 66% male, which is different from WWE, but that at live shows the audience is 50-50 between men and women, so that they're translating better to a woman's audience than the WWE product is. And said that all entertainment is their competition. They're not just competing with WWE, but all competition globally and culturally in Japan and Mexico and different places like that. So yeah, and he also talked about how they're trying to make inroads in Mexico and Mexico City and make Tokyo a tourist attraction, with New Japan Pro Wrestling being the center of that. So how people go to Mexico City to see CMLL and Arena Mexico.
There's no reason that can't happen, because I think the best city in the world for wrestling is Tokyo.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make, Cork and Hall and New Japan Pro Wrestling be a tourist destination for people to come and watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. He also said that Harold Mai said he'd consider himself a failure if their annual revenues were, at 100 million within 3 years of his taking over. So that was like a big success when he took over. He wants to grow it. He says they're closer to 40 million and he's about 1 year in. The only way to reach that number is to be able to get a strong series of international television deals. That might require them going PG, but that there's a feeling that could hurt New Japan, especially internationally, because the feeling from people outside of Japan is that they aren't WWE. Right. So he's trying to figure out a way culturally to do what they're doing now, but to also cut out things like Lance Archer spitting on people and using the middle finger and different inappropriate things like that. But that they're trying to come up with a salary structure right now that is...
Fale. Forget them.
They're trying to come up with a salary structure that is similar and competitive to those of AEW and WWE while still drawing in huge revenue in the coming months. So those are the last bits of news. And then finally, we're going to close with this. We have the Best of Super Juniors 26 card. Rich, you want to run it down?
Yeah, so our opening match, we got Shota Umino, Teton, and Dragon Lee against Ren Narita, Jonathan Gresham, and Bandito.
That sounds good.
Second match, we've got Sho and Yo and Taguchi against Eagles, Phantasmo, and Ishimori, all of the Bullet Club.
Also, Ishimori will be able to wrestle.
So we'll see.
We'll see.
We got a 10-man tag. We got Tiger Mask, Jushin Thunder Liger, who has been off the tour, Yoshihashi, Toru Yano, and Tomohiro Ishii against Dookie, Kanemaru, Zack Sabre Jr., Minoru Suzuki, and Tai Chi.
Ooh, so we got Suzuki and Liger on opposite sides of the fence again. Yes.
We do.
So, yeah, that's going to be awesome.
So, fourth match, we got Toa Hanare, Tomoaki Hama, Togi Makabe, and Kota Ibushi versus Bushi, Sanada, Evil, and Tetsuya Naito. So, a little bit of build for Ibushi and Naito there. Fifth match, we've got Rocky Romero and Kazuchika Okada against Brody King and Marty Scurll. Of course, Okada and Marty faced each other when Okada sent Marty to 205 Live, or so he thought.
That's interesting, having Brody King in the ring with Okada.
Yes.
Given the idea that there could potentially be G1 implications there.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Then, of course, our sixth match, Hiroshi Tanahashi against Jay White. The Hiroshi Tanahashi comeback match, as is listed. Then, of course, we've got our IWGP US title match, Juice Robinson against the challenger making his debut in New Japan, Jon Moxley. And then, y'all know what it is, the main event, Will Osperay versus Shingo Takagi.
I think the things to look out for there, obviously.
This is a hell of a show.
Obviously, in that 10-man tag, we've got, the Sekigun guys and Chaos guys kind of going up against Suzuki-gun. I think it's real important to keep an eye out for the interactions between Suzuki and Liger, which we have not forgotten about, plus Ishii and Taichi. But fourth from the top, that tag match with Okada and who is it, Rocky Romero?
Yes.
Teaming up against Brody King and Marty Scurll. That seems like a prime candidate spot for a Jericho interaction.
Yes.
The perfect spot on the card. So we've got the full card here. You heard it here first. And that is going to close the show out. Rich, before we go, you got anything you want to plug?
Yeah, make sure you guys are checking out One Nation Radio on Sundays on this very network. If you guys enjoy like rap and beat making, check me out on YouTube. I put up videos a couple times a week where I'm showing you how I'm actually making some stuff, and just keep supporting Social Suplex.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week to announce the winners of our Best of the Super Juniors prediction contest, announce the wrestler and the match of the month for the month of May, give our final thoughts and reviews on the entire Best of Super Juniors tournament, review the finals of the Best of Super Junior tournament and Dominion, and cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. You can also follow us at Social Suplex. You can follow Rich at RichLatta32, and you can follow Jeremy at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can join us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Reddit, I'm Keeping It Strong Style. Jeremy is the pro black guy. You can email Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all our other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Sundays, we have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. Wednesdays, the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. Every other Wednesday, our podcast dedicated to independent wrestling. Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryant. Thursday, NXT, Then, Now, and Forever. Friday, Get in the Ring, hosted by Danny and Mike. And Saturdays, All Things Elite with Floyd. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review.
We get NXT Then, Now, Forever too?
We said that. It's Thursdays. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. We'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.